Wow. Did you hear that hooting sound then? Did you hear that? What was that? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the MindSet Podcast live stream. Up first, hey guys, thank you if you're watching. Hello, I'm Gareth Davies, and I'm going to bring on somebody you will probably know. Let me just bring him on for you. Just give me 1 second while I work my magic here with this newfangled control board. And we've got, who's this guy? This is, of course, Mr. Reeves Cooke. How you doing, Reeves? Yeah, it's pretty good. Let's see. Hey, here we are. We're live together, me and Reeves, live on YouTube for the first time ever. I don't know how many people we have watching. Hopefully we have millions and millions. Well, we got probably like 5 people. We're getting some. Oh, what's this? We got Steve Wills. There he is. There's Steve. Steve says, "Hey guys." How you doing, Steve? Thanks for coming on. Appreciate it. And we got Richard Davis. Who's that? Richard Davis. That's my brother. My brother's on. There he is. There he is. This is Reeves as well. This is pretty cool, man. We've never done anything like this before, so it's kind of interesting. Let's see what else we got going on here. I know we're gonna have Matthew coming on in a little bit from the Secret Vault. Secret Vault will be joining us shortly, so we can talk to him about some of his exploits. So what do you think, Reeves? Here we are. For the first time ever, we're doing a live stream over the internet. Yeah, it is. It's working surprisingly well, actually, considering the bullshit that we've had to jump through to get this going. You know, we're all in quarantine right now, as you can tell by my unshaven look and empty beer bottles all over the floor. No, I'm kidding about the beer bottles. I took those out earlier. They're not littering. I'm trying to be as tidy as I can. But yeah, so we're in self quarantine for COVID. So we thought it only the right thing to do for us to get off the podcasting airwaves and get onto YouTube and start screaming. We're screaming. Oh, let me fix. Hang on. Let's see what we got here. Where's my thing here? Oh, there we go. Okay, Reeves, say something now.
I hope you can hear me now.
Yeah. There you go. Sorry about that, guys.
Yeah.
This is first time jitters, we're just barely getting over. So let's say hello again, Reeves.
Hello, everyone. It's nice to be finally doing a live broadcast after all these years.
There you go. Here we go. We got Paul Armstrong says, I can't believe after all these years, visuals on live content, which is pretty cool. Yeah, I'm seeing them coming through right now that Reeves is muted. But he should be okay now.
I should be I should be okay. I should be.
He should be up and running.
Yeah. I can hear myself on the feed anyway, so you guys should hear me in a minute.
There we go. We're back to normal. So Reeves, how have you been handling being cocooned in your house for the last month?
Yeah. I actually had the conversation the other day that maybe if this was in the 1980s, I would be a little bit more going out of my head because we had no phone, we had no internet or anything. But because we've got the internet, I think that even though we're kind of stuck at home and I'm only really going out to get shopping, it's still like a normal day. You can still do stuff. Yeah,
it is. It is a little weird. I mean, I'm working from home, so it's very strange to not be able to go play, especially on the weekends. On Friday nights, you said everyone say, "Any plans for the weekend? What are you going to do over the weekend?" Well, I'm just going to stay home, just stare at the wall and watch TV or something. There's not much else you can do.
Yeah, I think that the first week really was quite hard because if you want to go out and do stuff, you can't. You have to sort of stay in. And I do go out. I do get my shopping and stuff. But I think that I'm in what we're in now. I think it's going to be on Monday tomorrow. We're going to be in our 4th week over here, and it's kind of normalizing it now. You're kind of just getting used to it, and it's you know, but it is very strange. Going out is still very strange. I mean, I went out yesterday and it was just, there's no one around. It's like, you know, it's like you're on another planet.
What do you think we're going to do when this is over and we start getting back to normal? Is it going to be hard? I know I'm going to be excited, but I'm going to be kind of dreading it too, you know, like going back to work and everything.
Yeah, well, I think that there's going to be a lot of changes. I think with people, with their jobs, with the kind of social distancing thing, I think that we're gonna see a massive change in how we interact with people in public, and obviously that it's kind of been imprinted in your mind now that everyone that you come in contact with is a potential allergy carrier, and is that yeah
Niall's been using that word a lot in his videos. He's been talking about the lurgy, which kind of keeps you off the YouTube radar because you can't mention the C word, right? You call it the lurgy. And when he started using that, I was thinking, well, where does that word come from, the lurgy? And I did some research online, and I found out it's from like the Goons. Remember the Goons, Peter Sellers and Spike Milligan and all those guys? They invented it in the 50s because it was like an abbreviation for allergy. So if you're allergic to something or it's an allergy, they call it the lurgy. You know, when they do, you've got the lurgy.
It's kind of slang as well, isn't it?
Stuck, the lurgy, yeah.
It's kind of slang because, like, you know, you'd wake up on a Friday and it's a nice day and you'd like, Mum, I've got the lurgy. Can I stay home today?
Yeah, I don't feel well. Me stomach's hurting. It's killing me, isn't it? Mum. Mum,
it's true though. We all did it.
Can I have some ready Brek, Mum?
I hated that stuff. I really hated Ready Brek. Do you know what Ready Brek kind of? It reminded me of like a sealant that you would put windows in or something into or seal like an airlock. And do you remember that advert that was on telly? That the kid was glowing. He was literally glowing at the bus stop.
Yeah, he was
radioactive.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was like he was. I always thought it was like a force field, like he was about to get like an impervious force field that would save him from any germs that were trying to infect him. He'd have this Ready Brek glow all over him. And I remember I had Ready Brek when I was a kid, and I used to love it, but it was expensive, so my mother would never buy it for me. And I became very resentful, and many years later I killed my entire family because of Ready Brek.
Well, no. There's two ways of doing it. So you can, if you're just like an average, you know, your parents have got normal jobs, you're just an average guy, you know, just average family, you get it made with water, hot water. But if you're very posh and well off, you can get milk and you make it with milk.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I stayed over at a friend's house and he goes, do you want some Ready Brek? And I'm like, yeah, all right. And his mum goes and makes it and brings it up. And it was like eating completely different, completely different food. So, you know.
Yeah, you're from like another planet. If you go to your friend's house when you're a kid and they have Ready Brek and they make it with milk.
Yeah. That's proper.
You're like, holy F.
Proper posh. That's proper posh. I can tell you right now, if you got a friend like that, he's got a VHS video player, they've got a colour telly, they've got an Atari 2600, and the dad is a bank manager, and the mum works in the boots department of the makeup, and she's a manageress.
Absolutely.
There you go.
Tell me, son, what is that breakfast you're eating? Ready Brek, you say?
Oh, it's true.
I say, hold on, one second. Buy shares in Ready Brek immediately. You know, I mean, it was like a huge thing when you were kids. Was Ready Brek? You know, Eddie says it was central heating for kids. That's true.
Yes, that was it.
That was the thing.
Right.
Central heating for kids was the the deal on that. This color's looking a little dark. Let me change that. Hang on. Talk amongst yourselves, people, while I fix this.
More tweaking, more ironing out the. Kids these days wouldn't dream of water, milk all the way. Yes, it's like hot chocolate. You make hot chocolate. You can get instant hot chocolate with water.
Instant.
And you can it's instant. or you can get the hot chocolate with the milk, and you make it with the milk.
It's so instant. You get it before you even make it.
Yeah. I mean, who'd have thought when you were kids that you could actually, if you could think about the future and buy coffee in a can already made.
Yeah, like freeze-dried coffee, instant coffee. Yeah.
You can buy it in a can, though, like a can of Coke. You can buy like coffee, can't you?
Oh, yeah,
you can drink,
Drink,
yeah.
Yeah, you can buy water, too. So my beverage of choice today is Sparkletts water. Sparkletts. Brought to you by the sponsor of MindSet Podcast today. I wish I could have some of their effing money. You see how controlled I am today, Reeves. I'm not I'm not dropping F-bombs every minute and calling people, the R words and stuff like I do on the real podcast where I can let it rip. Today I'm more subdued and more kind of like YouTube friendly. I think the YouTube gods are smiling on us, I believe.
Is it interesting that I don't know, maybe people that are watching that have listened to the podcast, maybe listen to Mindset or listen to Paratalk, and that you build up you build up this kind of vision of what someone looks like, in their head. And I wonder if there's anyone in the chat that's kind of like, well, these guys don't look nothing like I thought they looked like.
No,
I was expecting Michael Knight and.
Yeah, I always thought you were black.
Well,
until I met you,
Yeah, long story.
Yes, it's a long story, that one. Hang on, is this working? I'm still trying to fiddle with stuff here. Let's see. No. Dead air. Ready, Brek. Okay, let's bring in. What else we got? We got Matthew Williams patiently waiting in the chat. Oh wait, someone's got a question. Go ahead. Steve Willis has a question. Go ahead, Steve. Ask a question, and we'll do our best to answer it. Yeah, it's some question. Now, Steve, let me ask you a question. You have typed on a keyboard before, right?
No, you got to be patient, Gareth.
Yeah,
let the man type his question. It might be quite.
Maybe he's typing on a ZX Spectrum.
There you go. No, I'm not. I know of it, but I've also heard that it's not really that in depth.
No, I am watching it, and I've watched I've watched the first 2 episodes. And I went into it thinking it was going to be the same old, nonsense like a lot of these paranormal shows are. And it is, don't get me wrong, it is the same old nonsense. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed watching it. I don't know whether anyone else on the chat is watching. Hopefully they are. Let me try.
I've not seen it yet.
Talk to the guys while I try and bring in Matt. Matt is patiently waiting in the background. So let's see if we can get him on. Hang on.
So I have not watched it. What's that? What's Matt saying? You need to mention the question when answering. Matt's giving us lessons now. Yes. I'm sure we're going to learn much tonight.
Matt is an expert on live.
We're going to learn so much. He's going to tell us all the secrets. Yeah. And we're going to learn so much, and we're going to be the best broadcasters ever
in the world, in the universe. Let's see.
Oh, I am.
Has he joined?
So patient.
There he is, but he doesn't have. Where's your video, Matt?
We're waiting for Matt to switch on his video.
Yeah, you got to turn on the video.
There we go.
There he is. Hang on.
I thought it came on automatically.
No. Are you kidding me? Give me a second here.
There we are. I've taken off the other audio. I wasn't sure whether I was listening to you telling me things from the live stream I was watching or on Skype. So now I'm with you and only with you, and will always be with you forever.
Forever and ever. Amen.
Yeah. So I'm sure that he's going to appear.
There he is.
He'll appear any minute.
I'll never let you down.
There's Matt. There he is. He'll never let us down. And there's Reeves.
Or desert you.
Yeah, or desert you. So how you doing, Matt? I noticed you had a massive podcast, what's it called? The live stream earlier on.
Yeah, I did a 3-hour stint. Then somebody wanted to speak to me urgently, and I said I can't do it at 8 because I'm on a thing. So he spoke to me for the last half an hour, so I had no time at all. So 3 hours, no time, and now I'm going to do probably 3 to 5 hours, but we can do it.
Yeah, what's the longest?
We have the technology.
We can rebuild him. What's the
What's
longest live stream you've done?
Unintentionally 11 hours.
Holy shit. 11 hours.
Yeah, but that did involve me falling asleep, getting off my chair, and certain parts of my anatomy getting exposed without me realizing the webcam was still on.
I do remember this. I drifted in and out. I remember I was at work and I put it on, and and it went on for like what? It was like 2 or 3 hours where it was like really good, and I was like, "Wow, this is a really good web, live stream."
He's just about to tell us it was shit after that.
No, and you were talking to Ian from IKS, the guy with the big beard, and it was awesome. And after about 2 hours, I had to leave and go do some stuff, so I bailed. And then several hours went by, and I came back on my computer and I thought, "Oh, let's see," and I was like, holy F. It was still going.
It was still going,
but the only difference was it was still going on. You had a bunch of people all talking, and you were like this. Knocked out.
I was incapacitated, and when I came round, I wasn't really awake when I came round either.
So, Matthew, I have a question regarding that broadcast. Did you actually fall down the stairs and pull the coat rack off the wall?
I don't have any recollection of doing it, but the coat rack was off the wall in the morning, so I assume something had happened like that. Yeah.
The coat rack.
I thought
the mystery of the coat rack. Will endure.
It was a bit of a mystery. Let's talk a little bit about something that that is occasionally touched upon on the Secret Vault. But we don't get into it enough, I don't think. But we talk about it a lot on MindSet, and of course you've been on MindSet many times with us, Matt. And that is the paranormal and the strange encounters that you've had while doing explores. And I know you touched on this briefly when you were talking to Ian from IKS.
Sure. Yeah.
So I know you've gone into some very, very creepy locations. We've seen it on your channel. When you've gone, is there any locations that you've gone into where you've actually witnessed and or experienced anything very, very strange?
Yes, on many occasions. I believe I've seen a ghost. I had strange experiences, which you could say sort of sleep paralysis, waking up and seeing things in my room, which you could explain away as this sleep paralysis thing, like dreams blending into kind of reality. There's been some other things that have happened which were kind of weird back in South Wales when I would swear that I was hearing somebody calling my name, and I would come to the top of the stairs like I always would, and I'd say, "Yeah, what do you want?" To the people downstairs. "Yep, what do you want?" And they were like, "Nobody there." So I'd go downstairs and I go, "Yeah, what do you want?" And they were like, "We haven't called you." And I'm like, "No, you totally did." Like, it was really loud. Like, so I'm sitting there like tapping away on my computer, and it's like, "Matthew," and I'm like, "What?" And there's nobody's done that. Then it developed on to being this weird thing. Like, I would be, tapping away on my computer, and then like something would hit the window, like my back window of I had a patio window, and I would just get up out of my seat immediately. Because I didn't think this was paranormal. I just get up, open the thing, run out the back garden, look over the fence, nobody there. And I'm like, I got to the point where this happened a few times. And I came up with a torch and I couldn't find anybody, and it was like, this was kind of weird. And I was like, what the hell's going on here? It's like something is trying to get my attention. Yes. Yeah, something was trying to get my attention at my nose then. It's my snuff, by the way, because if everyone wonders if I'm taking drugs, it's snuff.
Yes, snuff, dear boy. Yes, awfully nice.
It is.
Have you got the frilly hanky too to like dab your nose when you take your snuff?
Oh yes, it's called one of these.
It's called a toilet
Madame.
roll. Yes.
Oh yeah. But it's a high quality toilet roll, because any toilet roll these days is worth a lot of money. I'll let you know that.
I was just going to say that. I mean, toilet roll right now is like, it's fucking, it's a home. Sorry. It's,
oh, yeah. There goes your monetization.
Nearly.
It's premium, merchandise, right? I mean, toilet paper now, I think you can buy like 2 grams of cocaine with 5 sheets of toilet roll these days.
You can. Yeah.
I just don't understand that the whole toilet roll thing. It kind of came, and everyone bought all the toilet roll. And if you actually think about it, it's like that's the least thing you're going to need. It's kind of like why? I understand that this kind of started through the media pushing the whole food shortages and stock up and stuff, and immediately people think, oh, I'm gonna have to buy toilet roll. I mean, it's just very strange how that will start, and it's still going on now. Not so much, but
there's a greed kind of greed thing where, there was a woman, and I don't read the Sun, but I remember picking up the headline, so I clicked on it. It was the Sun online newspaper, and then it said this woman bought several times more food than she needed, and she's really proud of it. Most of it had to go in the bin, and she's really proud that she went out to buy more. We interviewed her, and this woman was saying, she's standing by a wheelie bin. It's full to the brim with stuff that's all gone off. And she says, I'm really glad to know that I've got stuff so that I know that others haven't got it. And I'm like,
see, that's
hang on a minute.
Selfish, isn't it? Really,
what is going on with this woman? Like, I mean, this has got to be a bait story. Surely it's got to be a fake story. But it's like, no, probably there are people out there that were actually really happy that they had things, in the knowledge that they could sleep safely, knowing that others didn't have them. Almost like, I've got a Rolex, I've got a Porsche, I've got all the food, you haven't. And I'm like, what? Food? Really? Food?
I wasn't when I first. When this whole lockdown thing started, I thought to myself, well, I only need to buy food for sort of 3 or 4 days, and then I'll buy what I need, and then I'll go back out 3 or 4 days later. And I perfectly understand that there's people out there that have got large families that they need to buy, an extra amount of food because they've got children to feed or whatever. And I completely understand that. But I've seen people literally with 3 or 4 shopping trolleys full of food. And I'm thinking to myself, there's no way that you're going to eat all that by the time all that food goes out of date. Because food, let's be honest, food today, it's only got a shelf life of less than a week, really, unless it's, the kind of stuff that's designed to last a long time. Most food you buy, it goes off, But who knows? It's just, I don't know.
People went for the freezer aisles. They left all the fresh fruit and stuff, which is healthy for you. All the fresh fruit was left. There was loads of fresh fruit. It was toilet paper and pasta and freezer aisle. Pasta for some reason. Everyone was like, I've got to get pasta. Why? Bizarre.
I want to say hello to George. No, I'm not playing Fortnite.
Oh, yeah, George.
I haven't got into that yet. But, yeah.
It's a good point, actually. I forgot I can look at the chat channel, can't I?
Yeah, George just joined. George, a long-time listener to the Mindset podcast. Hello, George. Good to see you on the show. And yes, Reeves. By Jove, Jeeves, yes. Reeves is Jeeves in Worcester. Yes. Reeves is playing Fortnite, yeah. But stereo.
Well, you can't play a game whilst you're on a live stream.
I'm not playing any games.
No, you're not.
Yeah,
okay,
no, he's not. It's a joke.
You got me.
He's not playing Fortnite. He's playing 2 weeks. Yeah. So back to Matt and his paranormal experience. So someone was tapping on your window.
Yeah.
Was it little Danny Glick asking you to let him in?
Danny Glick? Who the hell's that?
That was an old Salem's Lot reference. Maybe somebody watching got it, but never mind. You clearly didn't.
Okay. No, I didn't.
I have another question.
I didn't get it in the end. Certainly not from him.
I do have a question, Matthew. Okay, so let's just recount a minute.
Yeah.
So you hear someone calling your name, which actually is quite common in the paranormal world. Having your name called is quite a common thing. And then you started to experience tapping on your window, which, that's another thing, unknown noises. But the thing is, previously to these events happening, what kind of space of time did they happen, and where had you been prior on an explore, and what was the history of that building? Because I know you did that explore in the insane asylum, the massive one that you did. Now, if you could, let's look at it this way. Imagine the amount of trauma, the mental trauma that went on there, because some of those rooms that you went into, they were literally jail cells with padded walls. So do you think that possibly there's a connection there?
These things happened many years ago, over 20 years ago, like when I was living in Wales. And the explores I've done are much more recent. I've done some recent things, actually, with a guy called Carl Hassel, who's got a channel called Dark Arts Paranormal. And I've not really published these on my channel because it's kind of steering into an area that I kind of, it's not that I don't believe in this stuff, but I'm kind of on this exploring type vein. And I do believe in UFOs and I do believe in ghosts, but I think it's very hard to convince people of ghosts. And it's very hard to convince a lot of people of UFOs, even though there's mountains of evidence that these things have been seen by the military and whatever. It's really hard. So I kind of doing the exploring thing, because that's actually what's getting me the most people on my channel right now. Mm-hmm. And, so I'm following the views. I'm just a complete slut for the views and the monetization, I'm afraid.
Well, that's how you build your channel, though, isn't it? You've got to, if people enjoy what you do and they enjoy your explores. And I must say that, you do use high quality equipment and you do get good quality footage. And I think that if people enjoy that, then you have to, provide. The downside is when you get channels which try and do everything and they try and please everyone. And those channels, although they can be reasonably successful, I think that if you concentrate and build up your core audience that enjoy what you do and will always watch your videos, and that you're going to get a view out of them, they're going to watch it all. That's going to be a positive thing.
There we are. Sorry, I'm just playing around in the camera whilst you're talking to distract you.
He's playing around with toilet roll. Matt, you shouldn't be playing with toilet roll. Toilet roll is a very expensive commodity these days.
Yes.
Please don't waste that stuff, okay? You should be reusing it consistently.
I do. I do this afterwards. I pull them back out and I blow in it a second time.
There you go.
So good shit. So I see how quickly I can get sidetracked. I just get back on topic. My fault, because I go down these avenues and I know where they lead. Right. So I don't deal with that stuff too much, but we're going closer to. So we're going 20 years ago. Those were the things that happened back then. I had a UFO experience. I saw a triangular-like UFO on the side of a mountain. That's what got me into all this stuff. I'd read books on it and stuff, but I didn't believe in it. Then I had this triangular thing happen to me. Then I suddenly went, well, maybe other people have weird shit happen to them. Maybe I believe them more than I did now. I don't consider people to be, maybe a bit wacky or whatever. Although there is an element of that involved in paranormal. You're always going to meet people that, are a little bit off the deep end. Mm-hmm. But coming to more recent times, crop circles, although I was one of the circle makers, I believe wholeheartedly that we were in contact with something else, so there's definitely something paranormal going on there.
Well, this is something that always fascinated me when I first met you and started talking to you about this. And I know that you've been a crop circle maker for a number of years. Mm-hmm. But what really fascinated me was that you said, I go out there and I make the things, but it's not just me making it. There's something else going on. Something else is behind it.
Sure. I mean, I told it as best I could, and this is why I ruffled a lot of feathers, because being a paranormal researcher, looking into UFOs and things like that, I broke the rules, because one of the things you don't do as being a circle maker is, apparently this unwritten rule book says you don't tell people that you're making the crop circles. Now, I didn't really think that rule book was written for me, and I wasn't part of that rule book when it was written. So I was quite happy to tell people that I was making crop circles. But, you certainly find out very quickly that you become a very unpopular person if you tell people what they don't want to hear, and So I kind of realized that it was a hard sell. It was a very hard sell saying, look, I'm making crop circles, but the shit that's happening to us when we're making the crop circles is quite interesting. And you guys should try making crop circles, because it's like maybe this shit that's happening to us will happen to you. And then you'll believe what I'm saying is right. That's a hard sell as well.
Could you kind of describe what you mean by the strange stuff that happens to you when you're making crop circles? I mean, I just have this image of like I don't want Doug and Dave, with the board and the rope.
Doug and Dave. Are they still around?
Doug and Dave. Both of them passed away now, unfortunately. Yeah. I went to Doug Bauer's funeral. Yeah.
Did you meet them?
I only met Doug Bauer. I didn't meet Dave Chorley.
So what do you think? What did they think they were? Did you think they were stooges? Do you think they were? I'm finding it hard to believe that they actually made the circles they said they did. But what do you think?
Yeah, people kind of pigeonhole, people with these weird experiences and weird tales, and it almost kind of becomes. Once the story was out that they were the guys making this stuff, then the arguments against them started to sort of like rack up, like, well, you couldn't have done this, and there was no way you could do that, and what about this, and what about that? So we can dismiss with these people, and they kind of really quickly cottoned this, because they'd been making stuff for years. They'd been doing what I was doing, but in a very quiet way, and sidling up to some of the main researchers into crop circles, like Colin Andrews, and they'd been meeting them at conferences and things like that, and saying, oh yeah, well, that thing you mentioned there, I could possibly help you with that. And so they were kind of wheedling their way in and sort of like putting ideas in their heads, but doing it from a kind of position of like they were trying to help them. Although they were making the crop circles, they're not responsible for researchers coming along and saying, well, people can't make these things. And they were kind of going in the background and trying to help them understand that maybe they were making these things. But they realized it was a hard sell. So I kind of, I mean, that's what they were doing. But they didn't come out early on and explain that they were doing this. They just carried it on for many, many years. And eventually they decided that they would tell the newspapers about it. And then there was an almighty, furore about the fact that people shouldn't be doing this, and they're lying, they're government agents and all this sort of stuff. The same sort of arguments come out all the time about, everyone involved in the paranormal and weird stuff. They always, they're all government agents. You can't trust anything. So it's like, the waters were muddied.
Do you remember though? I mean, I'm sure you do, and I remember this distinctly with the whole Doug and Dave saga. Was that right before Doug and Dave went public? There was, I think, a BBC News crew that were in the circle, and their equipment picked up.
They
strange thing.
Yeah,
and they couldn't explain it, and it got very, very weird. And then Doug and Dave came out, and there was like a huge sigh of relief for everyone.
Well, yeah, and even that incident was probably one of the things that caused Doug to revisit the fact that he was trying to help, the researchers understand what was going on, because that sound, which was on the tape, Doug was a number of things. He was an artist. And he has an art studio where he would frame paintings, but he would also sell his own paintings there in an art studio in Southampton. Very accomplished painter, I mean, realistic work, like, Constable standards, very, very good artist. And on the other hand, he had a couple of other hobbies. He liked drinking and he liked wildlife recording. So his mate and him, that's how they got into the crop circles, because they used to go out doing the wildlife recording, going out in the countryside at night. And the idea was hatched and formed, about what if something came down in that really nice field there and people wondered what it was. But you remember, wildlife recordist, the BBC had recorded a strange sound in a crop circle. They said it messed with their equipment. They couldn't explain it. But when Doug heard it, because he says...
Sorry, carry on,
okay.
Matt.
That's all right. No, I thought it was getting real then. This is where it gets good. This is where things start to happen with a video stream that you can't rewind.
Yeah.
No, it's all live. It's all live.
It's all live.
I'm wondering whether the sort of like down waka 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 music starts, and then there's sort of like they start like kissing and cuddling, and it just gets like real. Yeah.
So you were saying
way off track, yeah.
Back on to Doug and Dave.
I'm back on track. Yeah, back on track.
No tunes tonight, George.
Yeah.
Sorry.
The upshot of this was that Doug heard the recording of this strange sound, and they'd slowed it down as well. And they said, well, what is it? Because when you slow it down, listen, it's making all this complicated noise. And it's like, and they said, like, nothing, no human can make this sound. And he said, well, it's not a human, it's a grasshopper warbler. And he tried to tell them that's a grasshopper warbler. They almost sort of kicked him out of the room when he tried to explain to them. But I mean, he's a very accomplished wildlife recordist. He knew what it was. So the BBC had recorded something. They played it back, and it turned out to be something that was explainable. But they didn't want to know.
So there is known cases of people that have been in crop circles with cameras and recording equipment, and their equipment has failed, or they have picked up magnetic or some form of audio interference. How do you think that's being produced?
Well, that's an interesting point, because away from the BBC thing, which may have been a grasshopper warbler, there have been umpteen other cases where TV crews and people with recording equipment have gone into crop circles and their equipment has failed. Now, that isn't something that I think Doug ever came forward and tried to help people understand. He sticks his hands in the air and says he believes in the paranormal in crop circles. He's had weird things happen to him in crop circles. But when he went forward to try and help on this one thing he knew that was a grasshopper warbler, they just shot him down, in flames. So when he came out later on and then revealed to the newspapers that, we were the guys that were doing it, I think it was out of a kind of like a frustration on one level. And it may have been because of that grasshopper warbler incident that you're talking about, Gareth. So you picked on a good point, because I think, after trying to deal with the researchers and they just go, no, not interested. He just, in the end, he kind of wore him down. He just said, oh, well, we'll tell the newspapers. And everybody cried foul, and they said, why are you doing this when you haven't contacted the researchers? And it's like, why are you telling the newspapers? You're doing it just for the money. And it's like, he didn't give a toss at that point, because he knew that the whole of the researchers field was just a load of people who are wishful thinkers, wannabe believers, armchair researchers, and a load of people who wouldn't accept what you had to say if you literally slapped it bang in front of them. They'd go, no, nothing to see here. So he got frustrated. So that's why he went to the newspapers.
What was interesting, though, from a layman's point of view, watching these stories unfold, you could see the crop circles were really starting to get interesting. In other words, people were starting to pay attention, like, well, there's something going on here. There's something we don't truly understand. This is a genuine mystery we need to get to the bottom of, right? And it makes a lot of people uncomfortable. And then all of a sudden, Doug and Dave show up and say, oh, yeah, it was us. We were coming home from the pub. We were pissed and we made it. And then we were laughing so hard we were rolling over on the ground. And then with all the people who were just starting to get curious about this, there's just a gigantic sigh of relief, like, oh, it was all bullshit. Okay. Oh, okay, we can get on with regular life now. We can move on.
Well, yeah, it's funny, like, humans seem to need that sort of closure, don't they, on weird stuff, and they'll almost accept any kind of silly rational explanation. As long as it's a rational explanation, that's good enough. And that's the problem, is I think you can hoodwink people by saying, oh, that was just a weather balloon. And then they go, okay, cool, because that sounds cool. So that was a weather balloon, so that's cool. When it wasn't a weather balloon. It was a Roswell crashed alien saucer, but but you just say weather balloon, everyone goes, oh, it was a weather balloon, that's fine.
Wasn't it hedgehogs?
Mating hedgehogs, yes.
Mating hedgehogs, that's what did the crop circles, apparently.
Yeah, some people believed it was deer, rutting deer. Some people believed it was whirlwind, even though there was a Dr. Terence Meaden believed it was plasma vortices would come down, which was kind of an electrical phenomena. And a lot of people got like egg on their face, because a lot of people said, well, if you're wrong, then you're all wrong. So there's nothing to see here. So you're all idiots, basically. And of course, for a doctor to say, well, he got it wrong, but it was a theory. It wasn't proven, but he did a lot of convoluted things. There was loads of theories put forward and, talked about, and it was getting taken seriously, not only by the public, it was getting taken seriously by the military. It was getting taken seriously by politicians. Yeah. The royal family showed an interest in it and were talking positively about what this could be. So I mean, when you've got the royal family kind of saying, like, oh yeah, we're interested in this. Like, Prince Charles was interested. They were getting sent newspapers and periodicals and insider information, and they were writing letters back saying, thank you very much, very interested, and all this sort of stuff. Not just your normal letters, which are kind of thank you for your thing. It was like they were commenting on it, and questions asked in the House of Parliament. It was getting to that sort of point. Maybe somebody somewhere made a decision, we got to stop this. But it wasn't, that decision wasn't made out of the fact that bullshit was going to come out. The fact was that if a decision was made that the truth must come out, it was the real people who were coming out with the truth, because they were the ones who were really doing it. So
yeah, the way I look at it is that I think the crop circle phenomenon, it's been around for a while. It's been around. I think it kind of in the sort of 80s and 90s, it kind of got into the mainstream. But I think it's been around long before that. And I do think that the way that we look at it, and the way that I look at it personally, is that you've got half of the people which are the crop circle makers, and I do think there's another side of it where the phenomenon is something in itself, where there are circles out there that possibly are made through other means, and whether that be atmospheric or some other way that we don't know. Who knows? I don't have the answers, but I do think that it is still a legitimate phenomenon, and I do think that some people say that circle makers do the research. They make it hard for everyone to do serious research, because you have to do all the investigations to find out what's real and what isn't. But I do think that it also has a positive in a way, because it brings to the forefront that there is something going on, and possibly it needs more money and research and time put into it. Like a lot of the if you look at it, a lot of the investigations, a lot of the paranormal UFO phenomenon, you've got small groups doing research, but there's never any, unless there's some cases like Skinwalker where you have Bigelow and his millions of dollars. There's if you think about it, there's the research. There's never somebody says they live in a haunted house, and I've got a house and it's haunted. There's no team that you can pull in that's got unlimited resources that can investigate for a whole year and then look at the data they've got and then come to some sort of theory of what it possibly could be. It's only a week here or a week there, So I think that there's more to the crop circles, and I think it's connected maybe in some way with, I'll say UFOs. I think unexplained aerial phenomena, I think is a better word, but because once again you have the UFOs. Is it nuts and bolts? Are they spacemen, or is it some sort of aerial phenomenon? Something natural that we don't know about.
Well, strangely enough, you're right, because but it did happen. The big bucks did come in, just like with Skinwalker. I can tell you about it if you want, but go ahead, Gareth.
No. I was just going to ask a quick question. Richard, my brother, he's on the chat right now, and he asked a question about. He said, "What were those strange light balls that were filmed while making the circles? What was that real? Do you know what he's talking about, Matt? Where you see and then the lights would come down and the circles would be formed?"
Well, from knowing, you're going to hate me for this, but I mean, I'm accused of being obtuse, but I mean, I can give you a direct answer, which isn't going to be the one you like, or I can give you an answer you'll like. That's the hard thing about being involved in all of this, is like people often don't want to hear what you got to say, but if he wants the truth, I can tell him the truth, but it may not be what he wants to hear.
Well, truth, please, truth.
Okay. Well, that's what I would like as well. That's why I got involved in all of these subjects, is because I consider myself a researcher. So as a researcher, helping researchers to understand the truth, you get it in the neck,
Yeah.
But the trouble, it was made by HTV Studios in Bristol, that footage. Okay, a graphic artist called John Wabe, spelled Whiskey Alpha Bravo Echo, was a graphic designer working with computer animations. And he thought it would be a great bit of fun to go and film a crop circle that's appeared in a field, take it back to the studio, digitally erase the crop circle, and then re-enable the crop circle appearing with some balls of light around it. And then to film this and downgrade the quality so it looked like it had been filmed handheld when it was in fact something that had been done in a studio, and it was all on a tripod, and then it was made to look handheld and all this sort of stuff. It was, but he failed in just the biggest way possible, because cameras of the day, and still to this day, a lot of cameras, certainly back in the day, film 50 frames per second. Okay, so it's 25 frames per second with interlace lines between them, these meshy lines that look messy when you see video transferred badly onto YouTube. Yeah, you don't see that on television, but you see it interlace. Yeah. Now, I, being interested in video and editing and computers, knew exactly what an interlace field looked like and the characteristics and artifacts. But even though this guy was a graphic designer working for a television company and should have known better, he filmed originally on a tripod, 50 fields a second with interlace, took it back to the studio, then converted it into progressive, which means there's no fields, then output it back as progressive onto the videotape. He striped it onto the videotape and copied it back, and then gave the videotape to the researchers and said, this is just how I shot it on the camera. But of course, when I saw it, I went, well, it starts as being a camera, then it goes to be a camera that's been done in a studio with effects, then it goes back to being camera again. So how does that camera, which can't do that, because that's studio, get to be in the middle of this tape? And I said, and immediately, so the day it was released, the day the guy came in the pub, I said, I don't believe this. It's been done in a studio, because I can tell the quality. Everybody's like, what do you want about? It's like saying a fine wine, like, you know, a fine wine, £1,000 wine versus a £3 bottle of Plonk from the. Your expert could tell you. I could see it straight away because I work with that stuff all the time, and I could show people. And I could say, look, this is how it look. There's no interlace. It's gone. The interlace is gone. It's a clever studio thing. And people were like, get the hell out of here. You know, it was like they couldn't accept that. So unfortunately, everyone ran with the other story. Eventually, I was proven right. But I told them on day one.
That footage made it all the way around the world, right? It became world famous. What was his motivation there, though? Was it just like he wanted to release it, then come out and say, "Ha, I told you so. It's all BS," or was he genuinely trying to put something out there as, "No, this really happened. This is real"?
He was interviewed, and it was kind of funny because when he was caught out, he thought he was going to be able to put this into the community and everyone would believe it. It would carry on forever. And he thought that nobody would ever track him down. But he did give his name, and his name, he altered his name slightly, but then somebody found that it was an alteration of his name. It wasn't his real name, and they found out his real name, and they found out he worked for HTV, and he was pounced upon by people who came to film him coming out of the door of HTV studios, who said, like, "Hey, John, that video," and he ran, so he was like, "Oh shit," and he ran away, which is a bad reaction. And then they eventually managed to speak to him, and he said, all right, I'll admit to it. Yeah, I did do it. And then he took him in the studio and showed how he did it. He showed the computer. He's like, here's all the frames, and here I layered it together and put it all, it's a very, very hard to argue that was anything other than a fake. But to this day, your hardcore crop circle believer says that was a big government conspiracy that paid loads of money to fake it in a studio when it was actually real footage, and it's still real footage to this day. And they've thrown everything at it. Hollywood has thrown everything they can at this to say it's not real.
So Stereo Fidelic 67 said, what about the alien head and the binary disc? Now, I think you know which one I'm talking about. Now, this is a fascinating crop circle that looks like an alien head, and then there's some binary code at the bottom. Now, when I first saw this, I immediately was like, this is obviously fake. This is obviously somebody built this.
That's interesting, because I think a lot of people think the exact opposite because it's so hard to do and so impressive looking.
This is from my perspective. I immediately thought it was fake, right? Because it was just too good, and it was a picture of an alien, so it was obvious BS. Yeah. But the thing that got me was I was listening to a radio show.
Giving people what they want.
Yeah.
Giving people what they want.
I was listening to
that's exactly what they wanted.
Listening to a radio show with Whitley Strieber. And he was...
I love it and get on with very well.
He was convinced that this was real. And I remember scratching my head thinking, Well, I mean, this is from my perspective, this is obviously fake, obviously. But here he was on the radio saying, you know, this is a real message from a non-human intelligence. So, Matt, do you have any information on the origins of that circle? If well, it's not really a circle, but you know, the crop formation.
If I did, and if I knew exactly who did it, and if I knew exactly how it was done, I wouldn't say, because I might be upsetting people. That could be the people who made it, or it could be the people who view it and want it to be real. Okay, so twofold on that one. Okay, so to this day, I've never said that I know exactly who made it. Talk to me privately, I might say something differently, but not publicly. So there's your answer. That's now it's getting cryptic, isn't it? But you can see where I'm going with this, yeah? Right, but would I believe that people could do it? Definitely. So that's what I got to say on that one.
No, that makes sense. I mean, I get it. You don't want to say. That's fair enough. To me, it looks very fake to begin with. I would never give any credence to the reality of it.
But as a technical challenge to be able to do that in the middle of the night?
No, trust me.
In the dark?
I get it. I'm sure something like that. I mean, that's some real skill to pull something like that over, you know, pitch black, and to do that overnight and for it to look that good. That's some serious skill there to put that together. But
I mean, it could be like the equivalent of like getting into bed with somebody and like, you know, doing the woo-hoo and waking up in the morning and find out they're 50 stone and like Korean, I don't know, and 500 years old.
Korean,
you know?
All right, very good.
There's nothing wrong with being Korean, but like, you know, I'm just building you a picture here, you know, I'm being visual.
Very, very successfully too. I don't think I'll ever get that out of my head anymore. But
yeah. Green tea.
Interesting concept.
Yeah, very, very, very much so. Did you have a question about this one, Reeves? I saw you moving around there.
Yeah. Oh, that's what would happen if you did a bad circle, by the way. You could wake up and it would be like a stunning model, you know, just pay, you know, that's what I forgot that bit. I was just saying, imagine you got into bed with somebody like that and woke up in the morning and then that was what happened. It could go two ways, couldn't it? It could be really good and it could be really shit. Bad, A lot of the time it's shit, you know.
A few years ago, I went on an investigation adventure to Wiltshire with some friends, and we did a kind of a camping trip, and we went around the usual places where crop circles would appear. And I have to say that although there was a lot of people out, you know, looking for crop circles and looking for UFOs and stuff, I thought that the interesting thing that I got from it was the overall feeling of something else, or you were in a place where possibly anything could change at you know, no, George, it wasn't in the 80s, it was in the 90s. So it was a few years back. It wasn't like last week.
Not in the 80s. Oh, come on, Reeves, it's the bleeding 80s, isn't it?
It was my rave era. So no, you know, I've been there, and I have to say that that part of the world is full of oddness and strangeness. And there are places, I mean, I went to Avebury, I went to Stonehenge. Stonehenge, I didn't really feel anything. But Avebury, I went to Avebury, and that's got a whole strange vibe about it. I don't know if you've ever been, I suppose you have been, both of you have been to Avebury. But definitely a strange vibe with Avebury. But definitely something about that place, which is, I don't know, I would love, apart from Children of the Stones, of course, but I would love to, I'd love to live there. That's just a great place, but it's just definitely got an odd vibe about it.
And anyone who doesn't know, Children of the Stones was a TV program made in this place. He's talking about the stone circles for children, but it was actually quite scary.
With Gareth Thomas was in that, wasn't he?
Lake.
Yeah. He crashes into a stone that appears in front of his car when he's trying to drive in at the beginning, and it's the first thing you see. And he thinks he's crashing into a stone, and when he looks again, there's a woman standing there like going...
Yeah, because they were if I remember correctly, they were people that were transformed into the stones or something.
Yes, they would come alive, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Back and forth.
There was a lot of. I think we talked about this a while ago, Reeves. Back in the late 70s, early 80s, a lot of the children's shows in the UK were very dark.
I mean, they were
very kind of they were disturbing in many ways.
They were designed to scare you. And they were definitely designed to scare you. And you just don't get a TV. I mean, okay, I admit I don't watch kids' TV anymore.
What?
But it's not anymore, unfortunately. But it's kind of like when I was a kid and I would watch those programs, it was almost like they were creating like horror programs for children, and they were sitting down and thinking, right, we really want to scare these kids, so give me the scariest story you can come up with, you know.
Yeah,
I think they still allowed to get away with that in places like Japan, because you've got the Pokemon, but you've got the manga culture, which is kind of like this undercurrent sort of thing, which is supposed to be gritty, nasty, dirty, bloody, horrible, and the characters are nasty, you know. And it's like, but that's still for kids.
Mm-hmm.
Still for kids.
Dramarama, yes, Stereo. I do remember Dramarama. I also remember Run Around with Mike Reed. Magpie. What else was there? Picture Box. What was the one with the TV?
Runaway, wasn't it, with Jimmy Savile?
No. There was a TV show. You know, with you'd watch like a segment of a film, and then the guy would ask the questions about the film. Was it the Screen Test? Screen Test.
Screen Test. I remember that. Yeah, because I used to like Screen Test because they would show clips of movies. And I remember they showed a clip of The Empire Strikes Back on Screen Test. That's right. And I had my cassette recorder, and I held the microphone up to the speaker on the TV just to record the clip from The Empire Strikes Back. That's how sad my life was in the early.
No. I think we're talking about. We'll get to this in a minute, but I just want to say something. But back in the day, before there were video recorders or video, you had a video recorder, but it was only used for special occasions because video cassettes were like £14 each.
Like pornography, special occasions.
Radio rentals only had about 10 films, and
but the bush down the end of the lane had loads of magazines and videos available.
Matthew, the man that came round in the car with a boot full of unmarked videos at 50p for the weekend.
Polaroid was invented for pornographic home use, and videos probably did quite well through it as well.
I'm sure they did. But no, the thing is that when I was a kid, I used to record the kids' TV shows onto cassette.
Yeah.
And that was my videotape. Yeah. And so I could play it back. You know? We're so spoilt these days.
Yeah, it's moved on now. It's moved on. The internet is now porn. There's a song about it by the adult Muppets, Avenue Q. You heard that one? The internet is for porn. The internet is for porn. Grab your dip and double click for porn. That's right. Yeah.
There you go.
But yeah, I think that is, people wanted to record the shows that they weren't allowed to buy, and that television wouldn't put on for them again. So it was a way to kind of pirate and keep your own material. But I think suddenly people discovered, and it was a phenomena with 8mm before that and 16mm. Because there's so many. I've got one up here. Right? I keep it on my shelf. Yeah. Look at this. Look at this. I actually keep these are pornos, right? And I don't watch porn, but I kept these, right? I kept these because they're just so shit. This was considered pornography. And it's a woman with a sort of clothes on, yeah. You never see a breast, you never see bits, right? But it's just suggestive that it might come off, cut to another scene, and it's like, and this was considered like outrageous. You could go to jail for having this sort of stuff years ago.
That's great. I say
so. That's why I keep it.
And that's got like a runtime of like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I hope my dad doesn't watch this. I think I kept this one. And if it's the one I'm thinking of, I think I kept this one because there's somebody in this one and it's really, really tame. And he reminds me of my dad.
Oh my
it's
God.
like he couldn't possibly. Do you know that scenario? That scenario
him,
with
right?
the comic strip. You know the comic strip presents Dirty Movie?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Where it's the Dirty Movie and they all want to watch it, but then they show this dirty movie in a secret session with Rick Mail. He's like, and the movie arrives and he puts it on. He's like, and then he's like watching it, and it's like he's got the whole cinema to himself because he's a cinema manager. And when it comes on, he recognizes the woman who's in the dirty movie. Yeah, and it was called Scuba Duba. Remember, it was called Scuba Duba. It was Dawn French.
Yeah.
Scuba
That's
Dooba.
right,
And
yes.
Dawn French is like
That's it.
doing this sort of like Scuba Dooba dance like this, you know.
I remember that. I remember that.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
So many classics. Do you remember?
I hope this is my dad pre being an industrial chemist. I hope this is not my dad on this.
Do you remember the comic strip, the spaghetti western one?
Yeah.
Sorry, Dad.
A
by the
fish
way.
full of travelers checks.
Yep. Fistful of
Yeah.
Travelers Check.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's right.
Yep. My absolute favorite is Bad News.
Oh yeah, I thought you
Yeah,
would say
Bad
that.
News.
Bad news.
Yep.
When
Absolutely
How did we
love
get
it.
onto this? I'm sorry, I just sidetracked you.
I
Didn't
know.
I did it to you this twice. You've
He
been
went down,
sidetracked 3 times.
rabbit hole. Matt took us
Yeah.
down the rabbit hole. He took us off topic. He's very skilled at that.
What do you think my
He's-
Well, I
show
actually
the last
think
11
you
hours?
could-
exactly.
You could say, as it past the watershed? It is the watershed. So
What time
you
is
could
it?
say you went down a Matthew hole.
Oh,
Whoa.
it's only one. It's 1:00 in the afternoon over here right now. It's
9 o'clock here.
It's afternoon. It's 1:00 in the afternoon. Still the rest of the day, but you guys are chugging along. So you guys can actually, if you want to crack open a beer or something, you go right ahead. And
I couldn't go and get any
enjoy.
because I was doing stuff all afternoon. I couldn't get some beers.
Yeah, you've been
So it's going to be boring.
you've been
Boring,
live
Matt.
live streaming since what? Like, God, I don't know, all day.
Yeah.
So I've got another question, Matthew. So when is the first live stream of a live explore? Have you done one yet?
I haven't, but if I did do it, I would also try and record it so I could upload it at higher quality. That's the problem. I mean, there's been plenty of explores that people do it like on their phones, but the quality goes up and down, and you know.
Yeah.
And I mean, you need to do it where there's going to be a phone tower nearby. There's no point doing it if you're going to do it where it's really bad quality, you know. And I would say that if you're going to go in underground, that can't do it. If you're going to go in a building, signal's going to go down. So there's things like that. So you might need to have like a Wi-Fi link outside and then get it good quality and then record it on the device and then put it back on the internet as it should have been seen later on, you know.
Have you
Yes.
have you still got your boat?
Yes.
You still got it? It didn't sink.
Nope.
Okay.
Still got it
Just one.
outside that window there.
I have a question
Okay.
for you, Matt. And you brought this up on one of your streams, and it's to do with the ghost box and paranormal investigation.
Sure.
So if listeners may or may not know this, there's a little box you can get that many investigators or paranormal investigators get, and it's a small box that it goes through radio frequencies very, very quickly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very, very
It's a
quickly.
broken radio, basically.
Pretty much,
It's
yeah.
just basically a broken
It's a
radio.
broken radio. It's only $400 just for you. You know, it cost them like
Yes.
30 pounds to put together or whatever. But it's just like this little radio that cycles through all the, and you pick up voices, right? And and they use it during investigations. Now you said something a while ago, which completely fascinated me, and then you moved on to something else, and you couldn't go back to it. But maybe you can elaborate on it now. So when you're in an underground base, or you're way underground in some kind of facility that you're exploring, and there's no radio signals down there whatsoever, complete dead zone, right? Nothing.
Should be.
And then you turn on this spirit box, and you start to get results. You start to get voices. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, the device is basically a radio, digital radio, which is scanning. So it's going from the low band of the band up, or from the top down. It can have a different speed and it can have a different jump rate. But basically, once you put it in scan, it's going through the radio band and through the radio band and through the radio band. Intermittently, we'll pick up radio stations. You'll hear snippets of what could be music, noises, interference, voices. You'll hear, but as you ask questions, it seems like this random kind of thing starts to sort of pop things out that could be answers to things you're asking. And you've got to run with that. And then you say, well, you know, we were just asking, are you meant to be here? And it might be like, it might mention a name of somebody who's there. Like it'll say, was that John? It said John. And one of them's called John, you know, might say Matt. And you say, well, so you want to speak to me? Why do you want to speak to me? And it'd be like, murder. And it's like, why? Were you murdered? Were you murdered? Would you like to murder me? And you're looking to pattern match. And did they say that? What was that we just heard? And it's kind of weird. But underground, you shouldn't really be picking up these radio frequencies unless they're stray, very random stray frequencies that have managed to get in. But the types of frequencies that would get in underground are way, way down in the old medium wave and long wave. Those frequencies, yes, but in the FM, shouldn't really penetrate through rocks and underground bases and things like this. We had one recently where we did it in an underground bunker, military bunker, and we had some weird stuff there that was coming through, and we shouldn't have been able to pick up anything there. So yeah, it's kind of interesting stuff, but it's very random, and people can reinterpret and say, I didn't think it said that, I think it said this. And
that's the thing with EVP. I did a lot of research into EVP many years ago, and I still occasionally delve into it, but when I was experimenting with of EVP, I would always record stuff, play it back on the first listen, second listen, third listen, and think I hear a particular phrase or a particular word, and then I would leave it alone, and I would come back to it a day or so later and re-listen, and if I still heard the same word, even though I'm already front-loaded, if I heard something different, then I would start to think, well, is it my brain kind of trying to make sense of what of the signal, the noise? Am I hearing what I want to hear? Am I kind of projecting my own, expectations on it? But there's been many times where I actually recorded stuff. We've actually caught stuff on recording Paratalk. We've had EVPs recorded while we were doing a session of recording for the show. But my only time where I've recorded phenomenon, which is can be verified by a witness, another person with me, we had a recording session. We did maybe 4 hours of recording, and as we were going to give up, we did this is on analog cassette. I used to work in the music industry, and I had access. I was in charge of a studio, so I had access to the studio. So I had all decent equipment, because a lot of people say, well, the reason you're getting this is interference through cheap heads or cheap recording equipment. I was using good stuff like Nakamichi, TIAC, it's all the good stuff I was using, and this stuff was all pretty sort of heavily shielded, because this is equipment you use to record professional music. And we had a white noise generator. We didn't have it plugged into anything. We're just generating white noise, and we had a microphone, and we asked the questions. I asked the questions and did the recordings. And then what I did is, after we did a 4-minute recording, I gave it to my friend, the cassette, and I said, okay, I'll play it back and you tell me what you hear. And he was so shocked, because what we had captured was 2 responses, one about a minute into the recording it was a lot of static, and then we heard someone it was English, it was quite well spoken, saying yes. And then about maybe 40 seconds after that, there was some more static clicks. And then I heard a woman's voice clearly saying, please reply. And these are like Class A EVPs. Unfortunately, a lot of that recordings and stuff has gone by the by now, and sadly been lost. But that has really stuck with me to think.
We should mention about the different classes as far as EVP and what it means, and why, when you say it's a Class A EVP, what do you mean by that? Could you explain?
Well, Class A. Okay, so you've got. I usually go by 3 different classes: A, B, and C. A Class A EVP is when you don't need to do any. You don't need to sort of do any sort of tweaking or sort of trying to bring it out of noise. You don't need to use anything, no EQ or anything to hear it. So you can hear it with your own ears. You can put your cans on, play it, and you can hear it quite clearly. Class B is when you hear it, but you need to aid yourself in some EQ to bring it out. And Class C is there's something there, but you can't. And that's mostly what most EVPs tend to be, is Class C, sort of verging on Class B, where you'll capture something and you'll hear it, but you can't really make out. Actually, there's an interesting, get me going on a tangent now. Peter Underwood, he was doing an investigation when he was writing his book Nights in Haunted Houses, because he was the president of the Ghost Club for many years. That's the British Ghost Club. He was doing an investigation in an old manor house, and they were doing a stakeout. Now, originally, the reason they were called there was because the lady had asked them to come and do an investigation, because she was complaining that there were sounds on on the floor and the landing on the upper parts upstairs, that she couldn't understand where the sounds were coming from. They set up their equipment. They set up cameras with high-speed night sensitivity film. They set up recorders, and they sat there for hours and hours and hours, and they got nothing. As they were getting ready to go, they left a tape player upon the landing and a camera, and they reached the recording, and they left. On reviewing the tapes, what they caught, right on one of the tapes, they hear a small conversation, and they clearly heard two people having a conversation, a male voice and a female voice, and the female voice says it's looking, and then the second voice says it's looking at us. Now, were they referring to the camera that was set up to take pictures? Was that something that was that spirits that they captured? Was that some form of entities they captured? But they clearly captured something. It's fascinating.
It really is. It really is interesting when you think about, especially the Class A. The Class A ones I find particularly fascinating because there's no ambiguity.
Yeah.
When you play back the tape
hear it.
and you hear the voice saying a word or a phrase, you're not like, oh, what did he say? What was that? You know instantly. You can tell immediately what they were saying. Class B is where, you can tell if it's male, female, adult, or a child. You can tell it's a human voice, and you can tell the sex and approximately the age, but you can't really make out what they're saying. So that's when you start kind of making stuff up to try and, well, did they say this? Did they say that? But Class A, man, that's phenomenal when you get that.
What did they say in Ghostbusters? Was it Ray Stantz said, it was a full torso vaporous apparition, man.
Well,
full torso.
Apparitions are I suppose the visual form of EVP in a way, because some people that see apparitions are also, there's a form of, trying to think of the word, it's there's a word that he describes it, but with apparitions, it's very similar to EVP. It has its own following. There's people out there that will only go on ghost hunts because they want to see an apparition. As we all know, the paranormal doesn't work to a time scale. Mm-hmm. You can go to a house that's 800 years old, has had, hundreds of people in that area that have lost their lives, and many people in the house that have lost their lives, and you might not experience anything. And then somebody might walk into that house not expecting anything, and they might see a cavalier walk through one wall and out the other. So I think that it's not down to expectation. I think that if you are looking for something in the paranormal, there's less chance of you finding it, because I think it happens for people more when they're not looking for it and they're not expecting it. And that's not to say that you can't have an interest in it. I think that if you force yourself to try and experience something, you make the job harder for yourself if you want to experience anything. I mean, I've experienced stuff that's certainly weird. I mean, I told a story on one of our para talks. I mean, I live in an 18th century mansion, a Victorian mansion, but it's all now been converted into apartments. And part of where I live, it goes back to the 1806. And it's when I first moved in years ago, I was unpacking, and I would swear that I saw a cat walk down my hallway and past me as I was carrying boxes in, and moving stuff around. But I don't have a cat, and there was no cat in my apartment. So was that in my imagination? Why a cat? And in my bedroom, I always feel that, it's always little bit weird in there, and that the bedroom is actually part of the 18th century part of the building. And that used to have stairs that used to come down, and a door which you'd go into like the kitchen servant area. So people have passed through that room for many, many years, 100 plus years. So, is there anything? I don't know. But I don't think it's all in the mind. I really don't. But,
someone who's listening right now, Nightlife is here. He or she, I'm assuming it's a he. He asks, so where are these Class A clips? We didn't know we were going to be talking about this today. Otherwise, we would have prepared those clips for you.
I think,
but maybe in a future live stream, we'll have some lined up that we can play live, and you can actually hear them, and they really are impressive.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny you should talk about cats. one of the experiences I had was a policewoman that used to come up on the nearby hill when we were looking for crop circle makers, when we were, looking at this from a different angle before I started making crop circles. And they used to come up to find out who were all these people up there in their cars with a campfire going, stargazing. And she got very friendly. And because she realized I was spending a lot of time staying up there, she said, look, if you ever need anywhere to kind of get your clothes cleaned, or if you want to sort of like wash yourself or something, you can come down and use my place. Which was very nice of her to say this, and as I thanked her for it. And she said, so I was chatting to her about paranormal and things like that. And she says, well, I think I got a ghost in my place. And I was like, oh, well, that's interesting. She said, yeah, you should come down sometime. Maybe you should look into it, and I was like, okay, cool. And there was nothing weird going on. She was like, come and have sex with me, or something like that. It was literally just genuine.
What kind of ghost are we talking about here, Matt?
Well, yeah, it's in my bed, but you only see it when you take your clothes off, and we're both got to be naked. It's like, yeah.
No, you've ruined it. You've ruined the flow, Gareth.
Yeah.
You've on a flow then.
Porno tapes.
I apologize profusely. I'm sorry. It was just
I got them on to the porn again.
Yeah, can you unravel some of those reels and hold them up to the? No, I'm kidding. Go back to your story. So what was the? She calls you down to fix her washing machine, and then she doesn't. Then she doesn't have any money to pay you. That's the next scene, right?
That's right. Yeah, I was cleaning her windows on my stepladder, and then all my clothes fell off. Yes, that's right. So I'm just, yeah, right. Okay. I ended up, I can't remember how I ended up, but I said, yeah, I'll come down to your place and I'll look into this sort of, paranormal thing. So I arranged to go down. She lived in Amesbury, and she said to me, I haven't got anywhere a small house, so I haven't got anywhere you can stay, but you can sleep on my settee if you want to sort of do the night watch and not so that. And I said that's fine, because settees in cars are great for me. I love that, So she said when I arrived, the thing about the cat, she said, bear in mind I've got a cat, but it's very antisocial. It hates anyone, even me to a degree, unless it's getting fed, and it won't go near you. But if you see it come in and just dart out, it's like that with everybody. Yeah, It doesn't like people in the house. Yeah. So don't worry, it's not going to be a problem for you, because the cat will just avoid you like the plague. And I said, okay, fair enough. So I was sort of chatting to her, and I said, well, I'll get my head down now, get my sleeping bag, and I was sleeping on the settee. And so I'd been primed that the cat would not bother with me at all. So I woke up in the middle of the night where the cat was sort of on me, and it was padding up and down on my chest. And I'm like, okay. And the cat was, and I was like, hello, cat, so give it a stroke. And the cat was being all pally now, so as cats do. As I'm playing with the cat and sort of stroking it, and I sort of in the darkness, because the room is in complete darkness, apart from your night vision eyes can kind of just make something out, sort of thing. And in the corner of the room, I noticed there was a black figure was just standing there. And I'm like, so I kind of looking at it. Now, this has happened a couple of times. This happened to me in Reg Presley, the lead singer of the Trog, his daughter's house. Yeah. In his daughter's house, when I was staying there with me and my mate. And I woke up and saw a figure standing there. And she said she'd seen this again, so she'd seen this a few times. So I digress. But coming back, black figure, I seen these years ago in my own house, but they dissolved. So I assumed that they were kind of just sleep paralysis effects. So anyway, now I'm there, but the witness to this event to me was the cat. Yeah, because the cat had come on my chest and was being very friendly, and I see this thing and it just dissolved again. And I'm looking at it, I was like, what the hell was that then? Is that just my imagination? And then the cat just goes, it's gone. Doesn't want to know me. So with a ghost being there, the cat's very, very pally. Now in the morning I said, so does the cat ever come up and jump on people at night? And she's like, no, absolutely not. And I said, well, the cat did last night. She said, that's really weird. And I said, yeah, and I saw something in your room too, and it was a black shape and it was over there, and the cat was all pally, and then it dissolved, and once it had gone, the cat got out. That's really weird. So yeah, animals and ghosts and things like that. Yeah.
Well, many years after my cat used to, when we had a cat, when I used to live at home with my parents, the cat used to sleep on my bed, and he got sick. He had to be put to sleep, and for about maybe the year after, now and again, I would wake up and feel like there was a cat sleeping on my bed. It was the weirdest thing. You'd wake up in the middle of the night and you would kind of, for a few moments, you'd feel like there was a cat or something at the bottom of your bed, curled up asleep, you know, you can't put your feet. And you would sort of get up, you know, to check, and there'd be nothing there. And regarding the shape, the black shape, when I was younger, I used to suffer from night terrors or you know, the kind of sleep paralysis. I used to suffer from that. I had an operation which was quite a serious operation when I was younger, and there was a certain amount of trauma that went with it mentally, because being a young kid and going to the hospital and all that stuff. And my mum took me to the doctors, and he said, "Oh, it's just because he's had an operation and he's a bit you know, spaced out." And I would wake up at night, and I would look at I would literally look at the corner of the room and see the silhouette of a figure. No details, just what looked like a figure in the corner of the room in the dark. And I would be so scared, like literally petrified, that I couldn't even speak. I'd be led in bed for what seemed like hours, but obviously it was only like minutes, where this, I don't know, whatever it was, maybe it was my imagination, maybe it was my mind playing tricks with me. But yeah, I had a similar feeling, experience to what you just described then. And it went on for about maybe half a year, and then it kind of stopped. But it was definitely most terrifying when it happened.
A lot of that stuff, though, Reeves, correct me if I'm wrong, but sometimes, you know, if you wake up in the night and maybe you have like a jacket hanging on the door or something, or a pile of clothes at the end of the bed, when it's dark and you're groggy, you'll look at it and you'll kind of imagine or kind of think that there's somebody standing there, when in fact there isn't.
Well, that's what I was told. My mother used to say, "Oh, it's just your clothes, or it's just a shadow from," because I used to like to sleep with the curtains drawn back, because our house at the time looked over just fields. There was nothing out the back, and so I used to like look out the window and like to see the moon and stuff. And I would always have my windows open. And she would say, "Oh, it's just the reflection of the light." But as far as I'm concerned, of being a 12, 13-year-old kid and waking up and thinking you're seeing something, it's kind of terrifying, and not being so terrified that you just can't move, you can't say anything, you can't do anything. And then after a while, you kind of either go back to sleep. I mean, I still suffer from what I would say was sleep paralysis, very rarely these days. But I had it, maybe the last time I experienced it was maybe 4 years ago. And I woke up and it actually felt, I was sleeping on my side, and I felt as if someone was I could feel their hands around my wrists, holding my wrists together, and I could feel their knees in my back. And I knew it was sleep paralysis, so I decided that just ignore it, relax, and I relaxed, and it just kind of faded away, and I was able to move. And the whole experience lasted about 15 seconds. But it's scary when it happens.
It's very common too. A lot of people have sleep paralysis. And what I find interesting, though, is not that people have sleep paralysis, is that the beings or entities or whatever it is that they encounter during this, everyone seems to encounter the same thing. The latest one is the Hat Man, where a man comes into your room as like a silhouette of a man. You can't see any face. He's totally dark, totally black, but he's wearing a brimmed hat. And this seems very common. In fact, at work, a friend of mine at work, we were talking about this, and out of the blue, he related a tale that was really quite terrifying, where 5 shadows came into his room, and 2 of them went on each side of his bed. And then at the doorway, a tall man with a brimmed hat came and stood at the end of his bed, and it was absolutely terrifying. And there's that documentary called The Nightmare. I don't know if you've seen that. Reeves or Matt.
I did call that out. Let me just do that now, because I meant to watch it, and then I lost all my tabs on the thing. Let me just call it up to The Nightmare. Yeah, I want to watch that, because I'm very fascinated by this stuff. Yeah. I think everybody is, to be honest. I mean, there aren't many people who don't like to hear a good ghost story. I mean, even if they think it's bullshit, everyone loves a good ghost story, you know?
I tell you, Matthew, I tell you,
being scared by a ghost is a very real experience.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
When it happens to you.
when Gareth came over, I think it was your first visit. I mean, 2016 visit. You came over, and remember you put on the sleep monitor on your phone.
Yeah.
And you captured that.
Right.
Sounded like somebody walking around your room.
Yeah, and a door opening. Yeah.
Door opening. Yeah. Bizarre.
And it was weird because that was
bizarre.
a weird story because this was it. It must have been 2016.
2016. It was 2016.
Yeah.
It wasn't last year.
I remember being in the house, being alone, and nobody was in the house, and I heard like furniture being moved upstairs, like things being moved around up above me in the bedroom right above me, and I went up to investigate, right, because it was daytime. If had it been night outside, I would have been like, F that, I'm not going up there. But it was daytime, so I went up to investigate. And I went up there, and obviously nothing had been moved. Everything was normal. But what was strange was you could feel, there was a certain area on the landing, on the top of the stairs, where you could go and you could stand there, and the hair on your arm would kind of stand up. There was like you could feel it in this area, and you take a few steps back, and you'd like step out of this, and you'd be back to normal, and you could walk forward and step back into it, and you could feel this area. And then this area started to move, and it started moving along the landing, and I remember walking with it, and then like an imbecile, like a fool, I started talking out loud to it, in an empty house, and I didn't get any responses or anything, but you could feel this like energy kind of moving, and then it went away, and it was gone. And then later that day, I went into town, and I went into a coffee shop, and I'm in the coffee shop, and I'm on my phone, typing whatever, and Reeves is online, and I'm like, Reeves, you'll never guess what, last night this happened, blah blah blah. And he said, you should set up a recorder. And I'm like, I don't have a recorder. And he said, search for a sleep app, because these apps are designed for snoring, because you can hear yourself snoring and stuff. So I downloaded this app, and then I went back and and you set a timer, like a 15-minute timer, like when all right, I'm ready to go to sleep now. You hit the button, and then 15 minutes later it activates. And it comes on whenever there's sound in the room. And the next morning, I pick up the phone and look at it, and there's like a million different sounds. I'm like, holy shit, what is this? So 99% is just me snoring, or farting, or rolling over, or whatever, making noises. And I did this for like a week, and got nothing, except one night. There was the sound of the bedroom door that I was in, opening, and footsteps. So there you have it.
Freaky.
You got me. I'm coming closer.
Yeah,
it's
but
freaky.
the sleep app, and I would recommend people get that. Go to your app store on your phone, just search for a sleep app or a sleep monitor or whatever it's called. And put it by the side of your bed, and obviously you're going to get a lot of snoring and all shit like that. But you might get something else. You never know.
There's a few stories out there of people that have recorded themselves at night because they snore or they talk in their sleep, and they want to hear what they're saying, and they record like anomalous sounds. They record other people talking. One woman used to record herself regular, and she was getting like people having conversations on the recording, and yet she was double locking her doors. She was keeping herself, all her windows were locked, and unless someone had a key to get in, how would these voices get on there?
Where's it coming from?
Where's it coming from? And it's completely fascinating. That I love stuff like that, because even though a lot of them aren't a mystery and are explainable to a certain degree, they're always the ones where it leaves you scratching your head, and you think, what's going on here,
Yeah, absolutely.
I ended up having this thing of like knocking on the window. It developed on to a point where once or twice I woke up from sleep and I was like stark awake for some reason, and I couldn't understand why. And you know, I used to sleep with the room in complete darkness years ago, and I'll make an admission to you now. I am much more comfortable, and I have for the last 30 years. I have to have a light on. I can't go to sleep if I don't have a light on. Okay. And I'm happy with that. It can be a dim light, but I don't like waking up into the darkness because
like a night light. Yeah, like a night light. It's just low level light. Yeah,
low level light.
And like what you have behind your head right there, Reeves.
Yes, my like blue light, my portal of darkness.
Portal of darkness. Yes.
What happened this one night was that made me a lot more comfortable. I would never wake up and see something, you know, and wonder what it was and freak out, you know, for a minute, like, you know, thinking, what the hell's that, you know? So that kind of stopped it when I have the light was on. It's like that wouldn't happen anymore. But what happened on a couple of occasions, I woke up on two very clear occasions where I was like bolt awake. So I'm like, 1 minute I was asleep, and the next minute it's like bang, and it's like there's no sensation of tiredness in me. It's not like I've grogginess, you know, and like, oh, you know, and like it was like boom, like as if I was already awake, you know.
Yeah.
And it's something like I just switched on, you know, and I'm like, that's weird. So I'm kind of like sitting there thinking, so why am I awake like this now? Why am I like this now? What, can I go to sleep now? No, I don't feel like I want to sleep. I don't feel like I've been asleep. Why am I like this now? That's bizarre. And it's like my heart isn't racing. It's not like, but it's just like ding, you just turned on. It's just like, okay. So I'm just analyzing it. Are you okay? Sorry.
I was going to say, have you ever? You say you wake up like that. Have you ever? Have you ever? This is going to sound. I'm sure someone in the chat is going to know exactly what I'm on about. Exploding head syndrome. Have you ever experienced that where you feel like?
No.
Literally all the pots and pans in your kitchen have just been thrown on the floor all at once, and you suddenly wake up.
It just wakes you up, right? You're sleeping.
It just wakes you up,
and then suddenly you're awake.
Yeah, everything.
Yeah. Never had that one. No. What happened? What happened next is I would be sitting there, and then my brain, because it's fully active and fully aware, and I would be analysing. I'm like saying, well, I feel normal. I'd be like checking my legs, my feet. Yeah, feel fine. Nothing wrong with this. Can I go back to sleep? No, I can't. And then I would be sitting there like analysing myself, you know, self-analysing myself and thinking, what's all this about? And then suddenly the dog would start barking. And this happened a couple of times. This happened a few times. The dog would start barking, like as if there was somebody there and the dog was awoken by something. And so I'm sitting there thinking like, well, what's the dog just picked up on? You know, the dog's just picked up on something. And then I would have like somebody, you know, like a plate glass window, you know, if you imagine a plate glass window, like somebody had literally gone right next to my head, because the plate glass window is right there. The patio door is right there. I'm sleeping. The thing's there. And it's like somebody's gone bang, bang, bang on the glass. And I'm just like, what the, you know?
Yeah.
So literally I've just jumped up out of bed, opened the curtains, opened the door, gone outside. And it would often be like daylight outside. It was like morning now, you know, it was like daylight. There's nobody there. Yeah. There's nobody there. There's no way somebody could just jump over the wall and do that. And a couple of my friends, you know, you could imagine as a joke, because we were always messing with each other, but they couldn't get away because I was up out of that bed and out that door too quick.
In seconds. If somebody had been there, you would have seen them.
Seconds, instantly like the bang, bang, bang. And I'm like, shit. Because I'm like, I'm going to catch you. You know, I'm like, I'm not thinking it's paranormal. I'm thinking this is one of my mates and I'm going to catch you.
Yeah.
You know? And it's like, and I couldn't. It wouldn't happen. But the thing is, the dog was like woken by something. Then it was bang, bang, bang. And then it was like, still couldn't catch him. Never catch him.
They say that animals are very, very receptive to this kind of phenomena. Obviously, their senses are far highly more attuned than ours. You know, their hearing, their sense of smell, maybe not their eyesight, but their sensitivity to the environment is far greater than you know, the average human being. And there's many stories of a dog standing there growling at nothing. There's nothing there, but the dog is there growling away. You know, that kind of thing.
I was just saying, sensitive to you made me think of a video on YouTube the other day. Somebody sent it to me, and there's this dog, and it's afraid to walk down the stairs. So the way it's learned to get down the stairs is to go out flat and just slide down the stairs. But the trouble is, it's a male dog, and his testicles, if you can say that, right, are actually going bang, 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 bang down every step as it goes down, and it looks painful as hell, right?
Yeah.
But this is the way the dog gets down the stairs. It's just to put his arms out and just go bang, 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 bang with his testicles. And I think in some scenarios they're less sensitive
maybe so
than many animals like us, because I couldn't do that.
No, that would be painful.
Yes,
we're getting some comments in the chat here. There's one from Lee Napper. He said, I've experienced it, huge bangs with no explanation, and nobody else hears it. We also have one from Aaron Stainer. He said, I had a weird experience when I was living with my nan. I woke up at 2 a.m. wide awake, couldn't move. All I could do was only describe seeing a big black wavy smoke thing hovering over me. That sounds pretty terrifying, Aaron.
Yeah.
I would recommend.
Especially if you've seen Lost.
Oh,
you've seen Lost, that's very scary.
The smoke thing. But I really, people who have experienced sleep paralysis, and I know it's fairly common. I think a lot of people have. I would strongly recommend checking out The Nightmare, the movie The Nightmare. It's a documentary. It's a documentary, but I would say it's a documentary, but it's also a horror movie. It's also pretty disturbing. So if you do experience night terrors, or if you have experienced night terrors, watching this film, the Nightmare, I don't know whether it will be wise. It might mess with you, if you know what I mean. You've seen it, right, Reeves?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It is a bit it's a bit scary, but it's also it's one of those programs that you start watching it and you have to kind of watch it all.
Yeah.
It's very it kind of drags you in, it kind of pulls you in. A lot of these programs that they start off really interesting, and then halfway in you're like, oh, this is boring. But yeah, it's definitely worth a watch. Mm-hmm. Definitely worth a watch.
As you're into paranormal stuff and ghosts, there's two cases that come to mind which are way more out there than anything I've ever experienced. But these are actually people that I directly met, not something I read in a book. Okay. And there's a Jewish family in London. They went to a cinema, it's a cinema/theater to go to meet somebody, and they arrive. They go into the building. They walk up the stairs. They open the big doors, to look onto the theater and steps going down to the stage area. And there are people on the stage, and they are practicing a play. It's like they're talking about it. They're not doing the play. They're practicing.
Rehearsing.
So they're talking, and then they're rehearsing. Yeah. Exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah, rehearsing. So they're doing this thing, and they watch them because they're kind of like fascinated. Like, oh, they don't know we're here. Watch them for a few minutes, and they kind of like that. And they're like, well, where's our friend? Is he here? Where is he? Is he around? No, he doesn't seem to be down there. Let's better go back down to the foyer and check out what's going on. So they go back down to the foyer. They say, where's blah blah Mr. Jones or whatever, and they meet him and they say, oh yeah, well we went up earlier and we saw stuff in the theater. And he's like what? And he said, well, because we didn't know where you were, we went in and we were watching them rehearsing. And he's like, okay, what were they rehearsing? And he's like, well, it was like a play and they were rehearsing it. It wasn't like they were doing blah blah blah. And he's like, in the main hall, you're saying? And he's like, yeah. I was like, so tell me this again. You went up the stairs and you went into the main hall and you were watching people rehearsing. And he's like, yeah. And I was like, and you just did that now? And he's like, yeah. And he said, which stairs? And he's like, the main stairs here. And he said, so they looked around. There's no stairs there, right? And they went, well, where's the stairs? He goes, well, you come in at the ground level. Yeah. Because the stairs were taken out years ago. Yeah. So you went up the stairs? And he was like, yeah. And they were like, describe it. And he's like, and the doors at the top. And he goes, no, they were taken away. They were taken away. And you were like looking at people on the stage. There's nobody in here. Come and have a look. The whole place is like not even lit. It's like, so they went in there and it's like, it's not even lit. So they went, so that's a weird one because it's like, you're actually not seeing a ghost. You're actually interacting with something that shouldn't even be there anymore.
Exactly.
It sounds like a time slip. Time slips are quite.
We talked about
quite
this,
rare,
Reeves.
but they do.
Remember that case we talked about with the people who they went on vacation
to the village
in Spain. I want to say. And
no, that was they went. I think it was Spain or it was. They went to stop somewhere. They stopped in a small hotel, which was like very old style. They went into the hotel. They didn't. The people in there were all dressed in like very old-fashioned clothes. There was 2 policemen staying in the hotel. They were dressed in like mid sort of 19th century clothes. They didn't take any modern currency. The windows, none of the windows had actual glass in them. They were just wooden shutters. They stayed the night. They gave some money in the morning. They paid and stuff. They left. They decided that it was such a nice experience that they would go there again on the way back from their trip, and they couldn't find the place. It was nowhere to be seen. But when they do the research, a long time ago, there was a building there, and it was a kind of place where people stayed. There's also another case where this is in England, where a husband and wife were out shopping. I think it was Liverpool. There's an old big department store it's a bookshop now, a large bookshop. The wife wanted to go and get some stuff, so she went ahead and went in. The husband was talking to a friend, and they're out shopping, and he said, "I'll catch you up." A few minutes later, he goes towards the building, and he notices that there's no books in the window. It's all clothes and stuff. And he looks up over their head, and there's this old style name of the building with the old doors and the old kind of fascia. And as he walks through the building and the doors, it's back into the bookshop. And this all happened in a matter of seconds. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, this intrigued him, and he did research to find out that years previous, that was actually a closed shop stroke department store. So people are experiencing stuff out there, and having these strange. I mean, it's the two ladies that went to the gardens. What was it? It was, so they wrote a book about it. They had an experience where they went to this place, and it was as if they went back in time, and all the gardens were old.
They make they made a show about this. A film. Yeah, they made a film about it.
Film. They wrote a book and everything.
I think it was in Scotland. It was in Scotland, if I remember correctly. I'm not.
I can't recall exactly, but they had an experience, and they were so adamant that what they'd experienced was real, mm-hmm. That they wrote a book about it to get their account onto paper. Right, but there's many people out there that have experienced. For example, back in the day when pilots used to fly biplanes. A captain, he was doing his flight at an airfield. He was originally at a disused airfield. He took off his plane, he went for a flight, and he decided to fly back over the airfield, which was not in use. And when he looked down at the airfield, he could see that there was air crews down there, yellow aircraft, which he didn't recognize the design of the aircraft. And he thought, well, that's a bit strange. He carried on his way. And when he did some research, and later on, years later on, and there was research done into his case, it found that those planes and the color of the suit, the overalls that the ground technicians were wearing, because they were wearing a different color than what was being worn in the day. The aircraft were yellow. Back in the day, they weren't that color. And he'd seen something that would happen many years later. So did he fly through some sort of rift in time and experience something that, some say that the past, the present and the future is all happening at the same time, and that if you're able to, in the right circumstances, you can step between. So these people, they definitely experience something, and that's why I think that places like the Bermuda Triangle, mm-hmm. and stuff, I don't believe that it's some sort of random bubbles in the ocean that sink ships. I think there's possibly something on Earth. There's possibly areas where these things happen and the phenomenon happens, but it doesn't happen all the time. There have to be certain conditions in place for it to happen, for this phenomenon to happen. And where do these people go? Do they go to a parallel universe? Do they go to a different dimension? Who knows? I don't know. But there are people out there that have slipped into other places and come back, and it might only be.
You're talking
one thing that might.
You're talking about the
cross
Fantastic
with this.
Voyage, Reeves. So you better stop.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great TV show. Great TV show.
There's one thing that kind of can throw like a spanner in the works in a good way, but an even more perplexing spin on this. And I'd imagine you probably heard these stories, and it touches on what you said about they paid money, right? Because there's this interesting stories of people saying that when they interacted with these people from the past, which might have been ghosts or may have been real people from the past, and maybe they've gone back in time or a different dimension or something like this, when they interact with these people, they can give them modern money and they will accept it as if it's old money. There's like a translation is going on between modern accepted things and old accepted things. They're not taken as out of place because they're wearing strange clothes. They might have a mobile phone, or they may be doing things that to old people would be unacceptable or strange. But they're totally accepted, and so is their money.
Yeah.
It's like you can pay with modern money and be accepted in an old sense. Well, you'd look at that and you'd go, what's this? This is not real money. And they'd hand it back, wouldn't they? They would say, but no. In this weird state, they accept the money. You can pay with the wrong money.
Steve raises interesting. It was Air Marshal Victor Goddard. That was the chap's name I was thinking of, and that was the case where he saw these aircraft that were not of the era, and he kind of years later it was found that the RAF had changed over. They were using these yellow painted aircraft. Their uniforms had changed colour to a different colour, and it's things like that that fascinate me. And I think it's all kind of connected in a way that we live in this. We live our lives in this kind of social bubble where we have our life, we do our things, and we're in a bubble, and we never tend to go outside of that bubble unless something traumatically pushes us out of it. Like, for example, I'll use you as an example, Matt. Most people don't go to places like where you've gone into ex-secret bases, nuclear bunkers. I'll be honest with you. When I started watching your channel, I had no idea that there was a base that had over hundreds of miles of corridors and was bigger than the village that it was below. I had no idea that even existed. And
25 miles underground tunnels. Yeah.
And yet, when you went down there for your explore, I couldn't believe how big the corridors. You could literally drive a small truck through those doorways, and I suppose that's what it's there for. Absolutely amazing. I just sort of and when you look at stuff like that, and then you look at this other stuff like the paranormal, you think this stuff doesn't seem so crazy. When you look at stuff like that, years ago, people would say you were mad for there's this secret base that's under this village, and it's bigger than the village.
That was one of the things that really blew my mind about your videos too, Matt, was when you would go into these underground bases. I literally had no clue that it was that vast and that
massive, absolutely huge.
It blew my mind. It changed my perception on what was going on in the UK, but it also added a lot of credence to the bases that I've heard about in the US. Now, I know you're champing at the bit to jump on this, but I just have to mention somebody in the chat asked, "Where is Ben?" The mighty hospital porter, the COVID.
Well, we don't have to wonder where he is. We just have to listen for like, woo.
Yeah,
we can tell where he is.
Yeah. So Ben was on the Mindset podcast with me this morning. I don't know if anyone's listened to it yet. And we had a great show. I did invite him to come on the live stream, but at the time we were doing the live stream today, he had another radio show to do, a previous engagement. So it's unlikely Ben will be joining us this evening. So there you are, stereophiliac. Is it stereophidelic? I'm terrible reading names. There's your answer. So Matt, as you were saying about these bases.
Okay, I was going to say Steve Wills. He's a mine of knowledge, and he's a Warminster UFO guy, Warminster UFO Society. So you're an encyclopedia, sir. Well done. And there's a place in the United States. I can't remember. I'm just tapping away to try and find it. But there's an underground. It's classed as an underground city in the United States.
Is that the old salt mine?
It is, yeah, in Utah, is it, or something like that?
Yeah. They hire out parts of it to companies to store stuff, don't they? Because it's like a perfect temperature. Yeah.
Ford have got a vehicle company underground. They make vehicles underground.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's massive.
And it's crazy because they got mobile signals down there. They got GPS down there. They got all sorts of stuff which you can't get underground, of course. But this place has got it. You know, it's. They store movies. Hollywood movies are stored down there, and it's temperature controlled because naturally it's all 13 degrees, which all underground tends to be 13 degrees. So they don't need a lot of cooling. So it can be used for server farms and things like that. But it's real. It's absolute. They've taken cameras down there. You could drive on the roads down there, and lorries are driving down the roads underground. It's a city underground in the United States right now, and you can buy real estate down there if you want. Move in. It's underground.
There you go. Let's start let's start the Mindset GoFundMe right now, so we can buy real estate.
What's it called in the channel? Come on, tell us, because I'm finding it hard to find it at the moment. But
but there's another. When they were doing the, I think it was the Olympic Games over here, when they were drilling some underground place or something. They took all those huge drillers down, and they only took 3 away. And that makes you think that where are those other 2? Are they still down there are they building something under London? Are they building some huge complex under London still? When I see these places unmasked that aren't in use anymore and how vast they are, I just really think that if you'll be able to see that, they're not using those anymore, then where have they gone in place? They must have gone somewhere else, and somewhere bigger, somewhere larger, somewhere more advanced. It really does make me scratch my head, and I find it incredibly fascinating and interesting as well.
There was a problem, for these underground bases in the U.S. at least. A lot of the people that worked there, they had fitness trackers on, like Fitbits and Apple Watches and the like.
Mm-hmm.
And they were running around going about their normal business underground in these bases that nobody knows they're existing. But via GPS, their tracker was tracking all of their movements, so that they were getting detailed maps of the corridors and the pathways underground. So they had to change the rules so that anyone working in these facilities could not have a smartwatch or a fitness tracker or anything, because it was giving away the locations.
And it's so strange to me that when you try to tap this into Google, it's not jumping out at me. It's almost like if you know where you're looking and if you know about it, it's easy to find. But if you try and find it by typing underground city USA salt mine,
Matthew, what? Is that what you're looking for?
Hang on a second.
I think that's what you're looking for, isn't it?
What did you send?
You sent me a link, did you? I see.
It's a drive around the mine.
Yeah,
that's the one you're.
Subtropolis is called. You're right. Yes.
Yeah.
Subtropolis.
Is that the one? Yeah.
That's the one.
What is that one?
Subtropolis.
That's the mine that we're talking about.
Okay.
It's a quick drive around it.
They filmed somebody driving around the place.
Yeah, anyone can go in there. Anyone can go in there.
Oh, okay. So it's not secret.
It's absolutely huge.
But
it just goes to show that what is underground and how big it is.
Yeah, it's like a city.
That's absolutely one example allowed to be known about by the public. What do the military have?
Well,
what have they got? Yeah,
there was one video that you did, Matt, where you went. Was it the red door, where you went through the cave and you found the door, but then you couldn't get in. You found the door, but you couldn't get in. It was all locked.
Where does that door go, Matthew?
Then you played some old footage that you'd filmed like in the 90s or something when you were in there with an old camcorder, and you could see and it was very, very impressive. It was unbelievable what was in there.
Yeah, it's
where does it go? Where does that door go?
It's this facility which is 25 miles of underground tunnels. It was codenamed Burlington. And
Burlington, yeah.
It's where the royal family would have come in a time of emergency, and it was a weapons storage facility for the Royal Navy. That was its kind of purpose, was Royal Navy Stores Depot, and it was basically somewhere that they designed a secret rail system that was connected to in Isambard Kingdom Brunel. He created, about the railways and SS Great Britain. And he also the Clifton Suspension Bridge. He did a number of very interesting things. One of which was this long rail tunnel which went from Bath to London, and it goes through this long tunnel, and it's a couple of miles long, and it's inclined in such a way that on his birthday he'd lined it up so this tunnel would come. The sun would shine down the tunnel on the date of his birthday, which was like near New Year.
Light it up, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, it's all this sort of stuff. But anyway, what they did is they were clever, these engineers. They created a switch line. So what they could do is in the middle of the night, they would take a train up, and then they would stop it on the tracks, switch the tracks, and then ride it into this secret underground base. And there were 5,000 people in its heyday working underground there.
Wow.
And it was the biggest well-kept secret because it was, wartime when they were doing this, and nobody would talk about it. So it was a really well-kept secret. All the locals that lived there knew the secret, but they would all nudge and wink each other about it, but the outsiders would never be told, like people who didn't live in this part of the world. But it's been confirmed, there's 25 miles of underground tunnels, and I'm glad it was, because I was telling people, I said, I've spoken to old boys, and they were all saying the same thing, 25 miles, 25 miles, 25 miles. And then you get the wild stories, the Chinese whispers were saying, oh, yeah, they take the trains into the hill, and then they carry on all the way to London underground. Now, that's the wild end of it. So, you can see how the Chinese whisper thing works.
Yeah.
But eventually, I was vindicated because people were saying that some of the stuff I was relaying to people was crazy. That there's a nuclear submarine engine down there, and that's used to power the place because diesel would run out. Eventually, the Cold War, they put a nuclear submarine engine in. I was lambasted for these sort of things, and 25 miles underground tunnels, he's off his head. Until a Channel 4 film crew eventually came there and were allowed to go down and see.
Oh, yeah. I've seen that on your channel, that. Yeah.
Yeah, and the naval commander says, yes, it's about 25 miles of underground tunnels. And I'm like, yes, yeah. I told you, you bastards. I told you.
It was all confirmed. Yeah. It's like
it was all confirmed.
Yeah. We were talking about this on the podcast this morning when I was talking with Ben, and we were talking about like how conspiracy theorists, when they come out with all these ideas, and everyone's like, oh, that's bullshit. You're crazy. You're mental. Get out of here. And then 20 years later, it was like, oh, I guess it's true. Maybe you were telling the truth.
Yeah, Steve, I was on the channel, might chime in about this one. There's this Tic Tac UFO stuff that I'm kind of interested in at the moment, and the thing is, there's a lot of military people come out and said, I was there, I was the radar operator. Yeah, I was fighting the fighter jets. Right. We were tracking this thing, and it was like going underwater at speeds that we couldn't even keep up with. And doing some crazy stuff and coming out the water, going back in the water. Like, what aircraft does that?
Yeah.
And this was kind of like followed. The military are quite happy to talk about it. Now, there's this kind of conspiracy theory coming out now that this is a planned leak of information by the American military to let maybe foreign governments know that we are many years ahead than they would like everyone to know.
Right. Yeah,
so this is the shit we want to warn other governments, like, don't fuck with us because we got this shit. And they're playing it off as a theatrical kind of like, oh, we don't know what this is. But of course, other governments are going, they got something there. What the hell have they got?
Right.
What the hell have they got?
So the Tic Tac, I'm assuming everyone, I know Reeves have seen it. I'm assuming you've seen it too, Matt. And probably a lot of people, watching us right now on the chat have seen it.
That's the follow on from what you said about 20 years time. It'll be
absolutely.
That's like totally what it was,
But the footage that we're seeing, it's all like the flare footage, and it's very grainy, and even though you can see the craft and you can hear the pilots talking like, oh wow, look at this. There's been several people on those ships that after the encounter was over, they had a debriefing on the ship, and on these big 70-inch 4K displays, they showed the real footage, the full HD close-up color footage that was recorded, where you could see the craft in great detail. And they've said that, we saw that, but there's no way that shit's coming out.
No.
There's no way that'll never be released, because the quality of this footage is staggering. It's crystal clear. And on the Tic Tac itself, when you watch the flare, you can just see the shape of the thing. But in this HD footage, you can actually see that there's like two appendages that come out of the bottom of the craft. And you can see the details and the shading and everything. And we'll never see that, unfortunately.
No.
Unfortunately.
You were saying about Skinwalker Ranch earlier on.
Yeah.
And you didn't tell people what it was you were talking about, because I put a comment in the channel. That was before I was on.
Yeah.
But you didn't explain because...
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. I thought, because like this thing, The Nightmare, that
Yeah.
a lot of people would have been thinking, what were you talking about then? But Steve in channel is very interested in this. The Secrets of Skinwalker Ranch. Now you got the Robert Bigelow.
Yeah.
So I'm going to curve this back around to something we were talking about earlier on, right?
Okay.
Keep with me, right? So they've bought up this ranch. There's a lot of money gone into buying up this ranch because it's supposedly paranormal, or is it? Now the television company are on there, and are they just milking it to kind of make the show more exciting or not? Well, television companies are known to do that sort of thing.
Sure.
But Bigelow with his money, and you said earlier on, well, there's never been anything. This is where I'm coming back. There's never been anything, loads of money that's kind of, gone into the crop circle subject. Well, there was some interesting stuff because the British military were getting involved because questions were being asked. What is going on? Now, there was a clandestine operation by the military to find out who was making these crop circles, or what was making these crop circles.
Right. Okay.
And it's believed they found it was people. Right. So then they backed off, and probably behind closed doors, a few briefings were had. It's people, don't worry about it. They're just messing around. Yeah. So that was the first thing that happened. Then the military offered to help the researchers with their research, and right under the noses of a massive amount of infrared cameras, military people who were guarding the area where all this experimentation was taking place, right underneath their noses, like always happens, the circle makers managed to get in and do a crop circle, which wasn't observed by the people who were on these cameras. But when they replayed their footage, they went, oh, you can kind of see them there. And they didn't notice it at the time that it was there. But then later on, they went, oh, yeah, it kind of is there, But the researchers didn't like to admit to that at the time. Then these people got in, did it all underneath and made a crop circle, and even left in the middle of the crop circle a board game, which was the guy that was making the crop circle. He had a board game, and he left it there with a cryptic message. He was doing the crop circle to advertise his game,
Yeah.
And still people went, no, that was real. That wasn't done by people. Even down to the board game that got left there. People said, oh, that was the military. It must have come in and that was the operation. They put the board game. The circle's real, but the board game was put there to throw people off. So it's like, there's that. Okay, so that was the military. So the military weighed in on that one, right? But the military didn't make any statements, because I bet you they were sitting there like going, we know exactly who's doing this, but we're not going to be the ones to say it, because we'll get dragged into like, oh, you're here to stop it. So they were there, but they didn't say anything. So I'm kind of seeing a pattern here of the military not getting involved, not making public statements. So the third wave of money came from Mr. Rockefeller.
Bigelow?
All right.
Or
Mr. Rockefeller.
Rockefeller, the real
Rockefeller. Yeah. I think it's Lawrence Rockefeller gave a large amount of money, undisclosed of how much, to Colin Andrews to do a real investigation in this, where he had the money he needed to do it, Right. So Colin thought the best way to kind of prove that these guys who say they're doing it are not doing it is to send out a private investigator to watch these guys. So he hired a private investigator to shadow maybe myself and other people, to see what was going on. And the conclusion the private investigator came back with was, it is a bunch of people. Yeah, I've watched them and I've seen them going out. So Colin eventually changed his mind from being a believer in it being a real phenomena to actually coming out and saying, look, I've been writing books on this stuff, but the conclusion I've come to is it's people. And everyone went, he's been bought off, he's been paid off, So again, people don't want to hear that truth.
No.
And I've learned this over the years, and this is what I take as a universal truth in these subjects. You can create a ghost, you can create a crop circle, you can create a UFO, but what you are never allowed to do is explain the ghost, reveal the crop circle, or find a rational explanation for the UFOs. That's taboo. That's taboo. Yeah.
Well, I'm just wondering.
How do you find it? How do you find that? Yeah.
Well,
sorry.
With the crop circles, I'm looking back now to maybe going back to the 16th or the 15th century, when there were cases that were written up that people were finding circles in their crop, and they were putting it. It was the devil dancing at night and trying to leave his mark and stuff. Yes. What do you think that there's a connection there with modern day crop circles and the phenomenon that's happened in the past, hundreds of years ago, before we had all this, all this is what's exploded now with the crop circle wars, so to speak?
I think it has a lot to do with personal bias and personal belief systems. It's offensive to somebody who believes in Jesus and certain things that they've been brought up with to kind of to even entertain the possibility that could be wrong. That you just can't go there. It's like and people are just like their ears shut off and they're not hearing you correctly when you're talking to them. It's almost like the belief system can actually just like literally cushion them from the blows you're giving them. And it's like you're punching them away with factual information and they're going, no, I'm buffered. I don't need this. And then they can erase that and go back to the old way of thinking. This is a problem. And I think with the crop circle phenomena, the evidence has been given out many, many times that people are doing this, but people don't want to listen. The media even like to play into this because they know full well it's man-made. But every once in a while, they'll do a news story in the same newspaper going, people could never make these. Here's the evidence. Next year, here's the people that make these. Here's the evidence.
Mm-hmm. I have noticed
people can't make these, and they flip-flop. It's real.
I have noticed
that it's real. It's not.
Yeah.
They just play both sides. They play both sides. Mm-hmm. They play the red and the black.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the beauty of it, is because they just keep people in the air. That's not real research.
Right.
Yeah. So Colin was really an honest researcher, and he put his heart into this, and he found something. But like a scientist is supposed to do, if you find a better solution or a better thing that explains the atoms and the physics and this, if you are wrong, you accept that. Some people, but it doesn't make you bad at what you were doing. Everyone was trying to find the best thing, but the best thing wins. It's like the best thing is the truth.
That's honesty, though, right? That's you're saying, he's an honest researcher. But people get they fall in love with their beliefs, right? They're infatuated by them, and when somebody says something to contradict their belief, regardless of what their belief is, they don't want their worldview messed with. They don't want it chipped away. So they're instantly like, no, I'm not listening to you. Go away. I don't want to know. Get out of my face.
Yep.
They can't accept it. They don't want to accept it. I do want to ask.
People are even prepared to kill. They would kill people over beliefs.
Of course, because we have.
I believe this thing, and you're saying you've got an answer. I want you dead.
We have religious wars, right? It's the same thing, right? You have two belief systems, one combating the other, right? That you have a religious war. But I do want to ask you, Matt, about something you told me a while ago, which I found fascinating. Is that one night, it was a late night, and you had as if something was calling to you, like a strong intuition. Go make a crop circle, and it was
more a feeling rather than a voice.
But
you're
at home. You're not doing anything. You're watching TV, whatever. But you have this intuitive pulling to go out and make the circle. Could you tell us, because there's an interesting payoff with this story?
Yeah, I mean, I could talk for hours about things, that have happened to me over the years that I kind of lose track. And when somebody gets me on the, that's the, and it's like, and then it comes out. These are interesting experiences for me, because I am a believer, but I'm a skeptic too.
Yeah.
Okay, but I'm a definite believer. But I don't believe easily in bullshit. I try to find a rational explanation, and if I find one, I'm happy. I'm like, cool, done. Let's move on. Let's not dwell on it. But I'm kind of believing that people get these messages. You get your knocks on the doors. The glass wakes you up out of bed. Voices. Things happen. Shit happens. Yeah. I've seen shit that some people wouldn't believe, as they said in,
Blade Runner.
Blade Runner. I have seen shit people wouldn't believe. I even doubt myself, because they're so crazy, some of the things I've seen. And I'm thinking, is that a mental breakdown? Am I having a schizophrenic moment here? Temporary insanity? Am I hallucinating? And I go through all the options, and at the end of the day, you still end up sitting back and going, well, I don't know. I got no answers. And I believe what Reeves says as well, which you touched on a couple of times, that these things never display when you want them to.
Yeah.
No.
And they often display just when you're finishing and you've given up and have turned all the equipment off, and they go, there you go. No, you didn't catch it, did you?
Yeah.
It's that kind of trickster. The trickster event. Yeah,
the trickster mentality. Yeah, the trickster. Yeah. things that don't fully bring themselves forward. When I've been doing spirit boxes recently, I'll come back to your point, but when we've been doing spirit box stuff recently, I got a real response from something that made a bang and did some stuff, and the room got cold and weird shit happened and the box was kicking off and messages were coming out from going down the avenue of conversation of Cthulhu mythos.
Really?
H.P. Lovecraft, which is not real. Yeah. But I was dealing with it as real. The people in the room with me had never read any of this stuff. And I said, is it real? Isn't it real? Is it, maybe it is a real thing.
Was that at the bunker at Innsmouth?
No, it wasn't the Innsmouth bunker. Yeah.
Sorry,
but there might have been some webbed-fingered people who'd been living in that building for a while, and we were picking up on their energy.
When you went into the room, what was the color of the space in there?
That particular weirdest room was actually quite blank, and considering the whole room was the whole building was graffitied and was an ancient Freemasons place in Bristol, and it happens to be, we didn't realize when we were there, one of the most haunted places in Bristol. It's in the books, and we didn't even know this stuff. And then we had some weird stuff happen to us the first time we were in there, and like things were banging and noises were going boom in the room. We were like, is this place really haunted? What are these? What the hell's going on? We were trying to find an explanation. We couldn't. Yeah. So we went away. We looked it up. We found out, we just happened to have just stumbled across the most haunted place in Bristol.
That's amazing.
It was a nightclub as well, So we were like, wow, So then we invited some people along. So this shit happened. The point being, going back to crop circles.
Go build a circle.
There was a point.
If you build it, they will come.
Yes, I was called to build something. Many times in life, I find myself drawn to places, and I've been looking at them, and I find out years later that was a bunker. That was connected to weird stuff. And it's almost like as if I naturally gravitate like a compass needle towards stuff that I found out later were bunkers and were things. And I put the pieces together, and I go, I've come to places that I've read about, and I've reading them and go, I've got to go there. That's a really good bunker. And when I drive there, I go, this looks familiar. Why does it? And I've stood at these gates before. I remember like 10 years ago standing at these gates thinking, I wonder what's in there. And like 10 years on, I'm researching it, and I'm going, and I'm back to the same place again. And now I know what's in there. Yeah. It's a lot more than meets the eye. Things like that. So I got drawn to do things, making crop circles, ideas pop into your head and you go and do them. And other people say these are really significant things for them. Okay, it might be subjective rather than objective. They might be pattern matching it and trying to make it fit. But I got an idea to go out and make a crop circle one night. And we went to this field, and there was another team in the same field making a design. We were doing elongated designs. We were one tram line apart, and this happens to be the largest field in Wiltshire. It used to be one of the largest fields in the UK. It's mentioned in the Doomsday Book as one of the largest fields. So this is a place you can get lost at night. Yeah. So to come to a field and do a crop circle, two teams are there, and we're doing elongated designs. Up and down the tram line. It could have been a circle, it could have been a triangle, but we're doing elongated designs. And mine was a serpent, and the head of my serpent was pointing towards the tail of the other design. And it's kind of just that's something. Then there was another instance where, and that was of course from feeling like I was in my house. I had no idea I wanted to go and make a crop circle. I had no team, right? And there was no way that I would know how to make a circle on my own.
Yeah, because don't you? I mean, when you make a crop circle, don't you plan it out first, right? You plan out the design you want to use. You draw it, you work it out, and there's usually a team of more than two people, right? 2 or 3 people that accomplish
two minimum. Three's good.
Three's good. Then you go out and you actually build the thing. But you had none of that. So, it was just you, no planning, no nothing. But you had this innate desire to go out and make this circle.
It's different if you're in a pub and it's late night closing maybe, and you can spot there's a few people who kind of like nudge, wink, want to come out and make a crop circle. That's different. But when you're in the house and you can't really, I'd have to drive to a pub and see if there's anyone around, or go around a campsite and anybody around a campfire, try and find people. It's just like, no, you tend to, if you're there early in the evening and you planned with a few people, like I'll meet you at the pub, then it tends to happen naturally, and then you go make a crop circle. But this would have been just like completely off, or ringing somebody like, late in the evening, would you make a circle now? And they'd be like, I suppose so. I'll have to drop what I'm doing, but and it'd be like, you're not going to be a very good friend to these people. So anyway, I didn't have a team. I didn't want to take the piss by ringing people up. And I thought, I've got to make this crop circle. And it was just like overpowering. I must do this. And I'm like, why am I getting this feeling? This is not me.
Yeah.
I'm not feeling like that. Why would I want to do this when I know I'm going to be a dick ringing people up and getting them out? And I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. And it's like, but you must do this crop circle. You must do it. You must do it. And I'm like, oh, well, maybe I'll go do it myself. That'll be interesting, won't it? That'll scare me. I'll probably see some stuff on my own. I've normally got bigger bollocks. Bigger bollocks when I'm with my mate.
You go on your own. What time was this? What time were you going out to do this on your own, like solo? Right? Middle of the night, right?
I did it with a caveat, because I rang somebody that wouldn't mind me ringing them late at night. But I said, because I know I couldn't ring anybody to come and make a crop circle with me tonight, I'm not going to. But I'm ringing you to tell you that I feel I must make a crop circle tonight, which is really weird. So I'm going to do it. But I don't want you to help me. I would like you to go and film with a camera and just see if something happens, yeah? So just film the field in case something happens, okay? So that film footage exists, although you can't see anything happening in the field, yeah? You can't, right. But the film footage exists, so it's a blank piece of footage of nothing, yeah? Because you can't see at night, yeah? Anyway, so he's up there. He's not part of the design. He's just on a hillside nearby. I don't have any contact with him. But I went to a part of the field, as you normally do. You walk along till it feels right, like this is the right spot to do it. So I started making it with a tripod. That was to take the place of somebody who's holding the tape. I had to make it small, because if it was too long, the tape would bow and it would be inaccurate. And if I pulled too tight, it would pull the tripod over. Right. So I had all these challenges, but I quietly did this thing myself, made this design, very simple geometry. But all the time I was there, I could hear people singing and playing music nearby. And it was like, hallelujah, but it wasn't like religious songs, but it was like people singing like upbeat songs, and like they were it was like motivation songs. And
you'd had a time slip to 1965.
Yeah. But I could hear them clearly and laughing and joking. It sounded like somebody not far away from me was making a noise,
like in the next field.
Yeah. Because of things that have happened to me in the past, where we've made a circle right under people's noses, and I believe in this stuff, so I speak to the universe when we make a crop circle, and we normally, to try and put the right vibes in the people who are making the crop circle, we would sort of like look at the sky, and we say, because we're not saying it's a god or it's an alien or it's anything, but we just look at the sky, we just say, whatever's out there, give us the inspiration to do this. Please make it work well, and make it something for everybody else that they get something benefit from, and it's we change the wording, but it's always kind of like, so that's why we're here, and this is what we're doing. Please give us some inspiration or maybe help, and it's like, and then we do it. So I did the same thing here, because I thought, I'm so close to these people. This is like crazy. So I've got to be really quiet, but I'm going to ask for some help. Yeah. I'm going to call this in before I do it. So the earlier time we did this, I felt an overwhelming urge. It's a completely different crop circle. I felt an overwhelming urge to go and make a crop circle in that field. And I said to my mate, I said, we can't do it because there are people at the top of the field with telescopes doing a sky watch. And if we do it underneath us, they're totally in the dark. They're going to see us because we can see them, so they can see us. This is crazy. I can't do this. It would be crazy to do that in the field. I'm not doing it, because it's crazy. And he went, no, it's totally crazy. And I said, but I feel I have to do it. And he's like, I know what you mean, man. I feel like I want to do it in that field, even though those people are there. And I'm like, yeah, but but they're gonna see us. Yeah. But I feel like I should do it. It's like somebody saying, don't think, just do it. Just do.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and he said, I know, it's just crazy. Now my mate is the most twitchy bastard going, right? he would run away from a ghost. He would run away from things. I did urbex with him back in the day. right? We got into a hospital. We were going through the steam pipes. And it was like, and he heard a noise. He was like, I got to get out of here. And I'm like, no, I got to go. And it's like, this is not a person who's going to go, I'm going to go and try and get caught doing something in front of a load of people.
Yeah.
He's no. But he suddenly he wanted to do it. So this is the second time this had happened to me, this feeling of you must do it. This night, we said, universe, kind of give us a bit of protection here because there are people nearby and we don't want to be discovered. So if you could handle that, that'd be really cool, but never to demand as well. This is the thing with the invocations. We used to call them invocations,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but it's not magic, okay? And we would say, we wouldn't demand it. It wasn't like we would say, you must help us and we're expecting it. We would say, it would be nice if this could happen, but, we wouldn't demand it, yeah? So
you're asking. You're asking that it could go either way. No demand, just asking. Can you help me with this?
Yeah, it wouldn't be a guarantee that anything would happen because we've learned this. Nothing would happen on most occasions. But on this particular occasion that we felt very compelled, we must do this. We sought out the people that were in there, that field, sky watching. We said, what did you see? We didn't tell them we were circle makers. And they said, well, it was really weird because all night long it was really clear. Then suddenly this fog bank came down just over that part of the field, so we couldn't see anything. And in the morning when it came up, there was a crop circle there. And it was like, well, there was no fog bank because we were there. There was nothing. There was no mist. It was completely clear all night. Something stopped them seeing was what we were doing. So I believe that that happens. So here we are now. Let's fast forward. I felt like I must go make a crop circle for some strange reason. I can hear people nearby. And I've just said, it would be nice if I don't get discovered. Yeah. So anyway, these people are still making their music. I do the crop circle. I leave. And then in the morning, I'm like, who's up there last night? Anybody know about something that was up there? And they said, oh yeah, there was these people. And I immediately found out who it was, and did a bit of detective work, who was in that field. So I sought them out, and they didn't know that I made crop circles, right? But I sought them out and I said, hey, you were there in that field where that crop circle appeared this morning, weren't you? And they went, yeah, we were there all last night. And I said, okay, so you were really close by? And they went, yeah, we were doing a meditation all night long. And we were asking for a design to come down to kind of prove to us, and I was like, really? And they were like, yeah. And it came down really close to us. I said, what, the design came down really close to where you were? And they were like, yeah. And I said, so did the design that you were asking for have anything to do with the design? And they went, totally. We were asking for like a flower, and this thing is like a petal and it's like a flower. And I'm like, right. And I said, so, were you guys like playing music and guitars and singing? And they said, no, we were completely silent all night. We were just doing a meditation. No noise.
So where was all the music coming from?
Where's that music coming from? That was something warning me they were there,
Yeah.
I think. So I didn't put a torch on.
That's amazing.
Very strange.
That's the weird thing. It was kind of going, don't fuck around here. There are people there. You wouldn't know they're
That's
there.
very strange.
But I'm showing you they're there. So you take this seriously. But from their perspective, they're getting a completely different mirror image to this.
Right.
They're getting, the design they've asked for, I've come out and done. Within a couple of 100 feet of where they are, bang, to order.
So
by telepathy.
So what do you think that, is that like the universe communing with you? Is that reality somehow like bending to their will or your will, or
I don't know if it's from
some kind of connection,
or
right?
if it's sideways. Yeah,
some kind of connection.
Is it a connection from something higher down to people that influences people from above, or is it sideways from human to human or human to group mind, like doing that meditation?
That's beyond coincidence. For something like that to happen, that's way beyond just coincidence.
Two teams went out on the same night. Yeah, this has happened a couple of times. It happened on my birthday, right? It's like, this is a weird one. Two teams went out the same night and did spiral designs. Yeah, and I just happened to bump into the people who made one set of the designs. Yeah, because I saw a parachutist coming down into a field, and I stopped the car because I'm a pilot, and I'm like, it's like the brotherhood of piloting and air. And I went, "Do you need a lift?" And they were like, yeah. And I was like, and they were like, so they grabbed their parachutes, scuttled out of the field. And I said, where you going, boys? And they were like, oh, to a field. I said, oh, do you know where I'm going? I'm just going down the road from there. And they're like, no way. And I was like, yeah, my mate's got an airfield down there. I said, so I gave them a lift to where they had to go. They paraglided about 15 miles to land right next to me in the field. But whilst we were driving up there, I said, oh yeah, I mean, what do you do then? And they were like explaining what they did. What do you do? Oh, I'm like photograph crop circles sometimes. Really, crop circles? We made our first one like last year. And I'm like, no way. Nobody knew. We knew who did the one spiral. We didn't know who did the other one. I said, oh, what's that then? They said, oh, it's a spiral. And I'm like, oh yeah. So where did you do that? And it was like, just below the hill where we jump off and do the paragliding. And the reason we did it is because we like to paraglide. I'm like, they're just saying they made that. So I thought, well, there's going to be something they're going to give me here, which is going to make it real for me, you know? And I said, well, so what was the design then? And they said, well, it's quite clear, you know, what we do is we thermal, and it was a representation of the way we thermal. The hot air rises, and we go clockwise, and we go anti-clockwise. And the reason you alternate it is because you don't want to get dizzy. So if you're spinning too long from one direction, your head spins. The other way. So you tend to alternate it. So you go the other way, and you spin the thermal, and you spin the other way, and you keep alternating it. Right. And I was like, total instant. They didn't have to think about it. It was just like, that's our answer. That's why we made it. Yeah. But I know the other people who made that other one. I know them, but they appeared two spirals, and this is how exactly the same they were, right? And the teams didn't know each other, right? I'll try and, right, the spiral went like this. It went from like that, so it went like that, and then it went down like that, right? Two teams in a different part of the country, and the only difference between this one and this one is this one had two lines spiraling outwards and going in, and the other one had one line spiraling out going in.
But it didn't. It didn't meet like that, right? That was that's just your representation. They were separate. They didn't meet in that way.
Oh, the two spirals were next to each other. Wow. Oh, see what you mean? Yeah. No, right. So in a different part of the countryside, that's one whole crop circle there you're looking at with two lines. In a different part of the countryside, they made the same design, but just with one line. Yeah. So that's design one in one field in a different part of the countryside. That's the thing. But it came out on the same night. Why did they pick that amazing design on the same night?
Do you think, I have just been listening to what you're saying, and do you think that that might not be it might not be little green men or hedgehogs that are making crop circles, but possibly the people, the circle makers, are being influenced through an outside force to create designs? Because what you're telling me there is more like that two different groups of people were influenced to and interpreted very similar designs at two different parts of the country. That's a major coincidence, especially with those designs being so close. You know,
yeah, pretty much, and it's happened time and time and time after again. I cannot tell people how paranormal crop circles are, even though they're made by people. And I think the biggest people who know that secret are the circle makers. And to try and tell people that, you are talking to deaf ears. Wow. I've tried. And I've just said to people, look, I'm backing away from crop circles, right? Because it's like banging my head against the wall. And I believe what I believe. But I got other things to do now, because it's like this has been a roller coaster for 10 years. I'm still a believer, but I need to do other things now. You know, so it's like I'm going in different directions. That's fine, because it's like I can't do crop circles for the whole of my life. You know, it's like
when you started doing the lectures and going on the lecture circuit and doing your UFO talks and talking about UFO phenomenon and stuff like that, did you encounter a lot of hostility because people would latch on and go, that's that circle maker there, he's part of the problem? Did you get a lot of his hostility because of that?
Verbal and physical, and I've had enough damage done to my cars and things happen to me over the years to kind of know that you're not very popular. You know,
I just wondered that, because back then it was like, as I say, crop circles were the hot topic, and there were definitely two sides of thought. And I can imagine it being quite heated at times. I've seen some of the debates, and they do get quite heated. And I'm thinking, you know,
the only thing I can ever say to people with this is because it's fundamental belief systems, and people get very heated, and people don't like to think they're wrong, right? You know. that offends people. I go back to Bill Cooper's explanation, rest in peace, Bill. Which he said, if you want to influence somebody about the truth of UFOs, what you do not do is you don't start talking to them about UFOs, because if you do, then that puts you in a position of knowledge above that person, and they start to go, I don't like you because you think you know better than me, and I think I know stuff, but I don't know what you know, but I don't like what you know, so I'm going to discount it. And I'm going to discount you, and I'm not going to listen to what you've got to say, because it's kind of like this. I think it's the way the world works. It's kind of like a macho, and you get it with women as well. It's like, I know better than you. Don't tell me what I can do and what I can think. I know better than you. And people just deviate.
They just don't like being told. They don't like.
Yeah, and kids don't want to do what their parents did because they want to do something different. You know.
Yeah, they want to do what they want to do.
So these kind of schisms always exist in society and in thought forms and what you're trying to learn. So Bill Cooper said the best thing to do is to not try to tell people. What you do is you just hide a document in a filing cabinet somewhere underneath something, or in the photocopier. You open the photocopier. I think this is the description. And you put it like as if it's a jammed piece of paper in the back of the photocopier, and then you close the photocopier and you leave it, and like in 3 months' time, somebody will come up to you in the office and go, did you know at a place called Area 51 in Nevada, they're supposed to be doing secret things? And Bill's like, no way, tell me more. And then suddenly they're telling you what you already know. But if you tried to tell them that, no, not allowed.
We'll have to,
You get that look.
We'll have to try that, Reeves. That's a good tactic.
So sometimes when I'm talking to people about the UFO subject and crop circles, even though I know a lot about these subjects, it is much more advantageous to go, really? What do you know?
No, it does.
Oh my God.
Fascinating,
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And listen to what you know better than them. You could probably tell them things, but then they would just shut them down and they would walk away like, who's this jerk? And it's like, so you have to listen. Sometimes listening is more important than
it's interesting. It is interesting that what the point you raised there is, I've had many conversations with people who don't really have an interest in the paranormal, only from what they've seen on television and watched in TV shows. And when you do start to talk to them in depth about cases, you start to talk up thinking that they are showing an interest in the subject. You start to get involved and, explain stuff to them. And it's almost as if you get the vibe that they don't want to know because it's not a form of, they don't feel patronized or anything. It's just a form of you're kind of interacting with them and trying to help them to understand it more. But you do get that feeling of like, you're a bit mental, mate. You're a bit mental. This stuff you're telling me is too off the wall. It's just why I just kind of shut down. And personally, I have given the UFO scene and the paranormal scene a wide berth. I do the paratalk. I just give it a wide berth because there is far too much. People have made. Now, I don't want to upset people or anything, but from the way I see it is, people take these subjects and they make belief systems out of them. And once they make a belief system out of it, they can kind of create their own bubble of the way that they interpret it and the way that they understand it. And if you come in with something different, and I'm very, I would say that I'm interested in the paranormal. I've had paranormal experiences, but I like to be open-minded, but I also like to be skeptical at the same time. I don't believe everything I see, and I don't discount everything I see or experience, but I have an open mind, and I always will look for a logical conclusion or a logical answer. But that's not always the case because, some things I just don't understand, at all, full stop. But the problem is that I have been involved, and I tried to get involved with the paranormal scene on a local level. And I was considering doing a para talk shorts with a local outfit, and seeing if they were interested. But all I got from them was spirits is my dead grandma. This is the person. This is that. And I'm like, they've already made up their minds. Yeah. So that's not what I'm all about. Your minds are already made up what it is, what a ghost is. It's your dead grandma. She's leaving you messages. Okay, fair enough. Me, I don't know. I'm open to. I want to look beyond that. I want to. What is a ghost? Is it a ghost something that we experience internally? Is it something that's generated through our environment? Is it really? I mean, I'll be honest with you. I cared for my father for nearly 2 years as he died of cancer, and I woke up 3 days after he died, and I clearly heard him call my name, and I was wide awake. Now, is that my brain? Is that my brain generating that? Did he come back to tell me he's still alive? I don't know, but you try to get involved with people, but I do find that it is a battleground out there. The UFO scene, the ghost hunting scene. It's a huge battleground, and I just give it a wide berth.
There's so much infighting. I think both of you will agree with that in the paranormal field, whether it be UFOs, ghosts, Bigfoot, insert whatever. There's a lot of infighting. Guys,
I've fallen really foul by just saying to people, look, I'm interested in this stuff. Can I talk to you? But because of who I am, the channels have been closed, and that's sad because I always considered myself to be a big researcher, even when I was making crop circles. Yeah. That's research to me. So anyway, sorry.
Yeah, no, I was going to say we've been at this for 2.5 hours. I think we should wind down. Someone once told
nothing.
Someone once told me I'll always keep them wanting more. So we'll have to come back and do this again.
You're climaxing too quickly.
We do have
slow it down.
We have maybe 20 minutes left, so maybe we can open it up for any questions. What they call it? What do the kids call it? The AMA? And ask me anything.
Ask me anything.
You bloody professional, and that was a beeper I heard, and you're being professional. Wasn't it?
Very professional, dear boy. We have
I thought I could hear a beeper
to get through this. So if anyone listening or watching, rather, if you have any questions for us, anything you'd like to know or anything, just start typing away in the chat box, and we'll do our best to answer it before we wrap up this inaugural episode of the Mindset Podcast live stream. I've had a great time. I don't know about you guys. I've thoroughly enjoyed this.
I think Marie arrived a little later, but she can catch up on the. We'll leave the stream up so you can watch it back.
Yeah, Marie just said, "No, don't go, please, no, no, stay."
Somebody mentioned that there's a lot of time slips for some reason in Liverpool. I wasn't aware of that, but if that's a phenomenon, I'm interested. Yeah,
I've noticed that. Yeah. I know. Yeah, when I was working up there, it was like that. I know.
There's a lot of haunting. Liverpool is a very old city. I mean, it's got a lot of history.
Yeah.
It goes back a long way. And there are a lot of paranormal occurrences and hauntings and things experienced in Liverpool. It's quite a haunted city.
Yeah. Lots of little alleyways and little streets and stuff throughout Liverpool. I've been there, only been there twice. But yeah, what's this? Here's a good one. Paul Armstrong says, "What's the weirdest thing that's happened to Matthew?" Now, Matthew, before you answer this, it doesn't.
Gotta keep it short.
It doesn't have to be paranormal.
Well, if it doesn't have to be paranormal,
but non-sexual.
I've seen things you people wouldn't believe.
Attack ships on fire.
Off the shoulder of Orion. Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I've seen a lot of things. I've never starred in any porn movies, but I've met people who've been in porn movies. And some of the things they've done, when I've researched what they've done, I'm like, I can't believe I shook these people's hands.
Yeah.
That was pretty weird. I've been to some really weird parties over the years in loads of different senses. And they're all kind of weird, like indelible, scarred in memories. I really enjoy the fact I went to the United States and went to Area 51 before a lot of people knew about it, which was kind of cool. Didn't get in, but went round the edge of it. But the weirdest things I've seen, I saw my UFO that got me started.
Right.
I've seen these ghostly shapes. Down the line, I saw a ball of light being chased by a helicopter.
Wow!
It was fully laden with missiles, And we stopped the car, and I got out a big 1.5 million candle-watt light and shone it at the helicopter, which, you know, is kind of a silly thing to do because it blinds the pilots, yeah. But they're trained for this shit because, I mean, this is military. They're supposed to know how to handle this shit, you know. And it's usually like, well, they've got their instruments in front of them. They're supposed to be flying by their instruments. It doesn't matter that they can't see because they're blinded. Just do that and look at the instruments. Yeah. So not a big deal. So okay. But anyway, I was like, I let him know I could see him, and he was there, and he was flying like a few feet above the road because this ball of light was going through the field. So he's like, what do you know? There's cars on the road, and this military helicopter is like there with his missiles like coming across. So I'm like, you know, well, have some of that then, mate. You know, so we're filming this. That's all on film. I've got that on film. And then this ball of light sort of goes whoosh and just goes off. Then we go up a hill to see if we can see it. And my mate goes, stop, there it is. So we stop the car, get out. We get up. I get the camera. He's like, you know, sort of there ready to do the light sort of thing again. But like we watch this thing go off into the distance over the village of Pusey. So if you imagine like this is like the village of Pusey in the distance. You can see the glow, you know, in the distance. And this ball of light comes along. And I say, so we were looking at the ball of light at first. And then I say, but look above it. And he goes, yeah, man, yeah. And it's like above it is a saucer that big above the village, right? And this little ball of light goes up into the bottom of the saucer, right? And then it just goes, whoosh, like that. Up into the cloud and gone. That's at that speed. It's just literally whoosh. We're filming this, but the only thing you can see is street lights because they're bright. Yeah. This thing is a dull grey saucer and it's not illuminated, yeah?
But can you make out the dull grey saucer in the footage, or no? You couldn't make it out?
You can kind of see in the noise there is a hint of a shadow of something. Yeah. But it is not in any way, shape well defined enough to say it's saucer shaped. But is where we were filming, and we saw the ball of light and we saw the street lights. You have to take my word on it. It was a saucer because that was the rest of it. Anyway, it gets more interesting than that. Okay, so after that, we went home. We were all buzzing. A couple of days later, met a CSETI researcher who was wandering around, and we were being filmed because a Japanese TV crew heard about our story. They said, can we film your story? I said, sure. So they took us back to the location. So we were doing a reenactment of like, so we came into the field and I was like, you know, and we pointed and it was like, yeah, it was there. And there's ball of light. So we were doing a reenactment, and they're like, cameras are filming. And the CSETI researchers, what are they filming down there? So he comes over and he's like, what are you doing, guys? Reenactment. Oh, cool. I'm a CSETI researcher. UFO? Yeah, cool. He said he had a laser, and I said, really? Oh, you got a laser? I've seen these guys have got these really powerful lasers. This is when you couldn't buy laser pointers. Yeah, they were expensive. Right. So this guy said, yeah, I got one of these. I said, yeah, that's the really expensive. He says, yeah, $2,000. I'm like, oh my God, you got a $2,000? Show me, you got to show me. And he goes, yeah, sure. So he gets it out and he points it. Now it's twilight now. It's not nighttime. This is twilight. You can still see the hills and everything is quite light. And he shines it towards a cloud. Yeah. Right. And the cloud goes boom and lights across the cloud. And he went, whoa. And we all went, what the fuck? It's like, so like, hey, cameras, film like that. Like, so we filmed it like that. 3 balls of light came out of the thing. Yeah. One went off, one spiraled, and one went that way. So it was like 3 balls of light went, woo, and we're like, film, are you seeing this? Are you,
wait, and this was on film? You got this on film, or the Japanese team got it on film?
You'd think so, wouldn't you? Because when I said to the producer, did they catch that on film? He went, la 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 in Japanese, because that's a good translation of how they speak it. He went la 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 la, and then they all sort of went like this, Captain. Yeah. And anyway, no, he spoke to them in Japanese, and then this is the producer. This is literally how he reacted. He went like this. No.
Oh my God!
And I said, what? And he said they were filming our faces. They thought we were reacting, doing the reenactment.
Oh my God, are you serious?
Broadcast cameras missed it. Yeah. So we're standing there, and one last little thing happens, which is like, hello. Yeah, one last little thing happens because we're standing there now going, oh my God, we just nearly had something really amazing. That was amazing, wasn't it? It was amazing. And also there's like right next to us, one of these helicopters, like was the one that initially we saw the ball of light. One of those is hovering right by us, and we've never heard it. We didn't hear a thing.
You mean like,
and all of a sudden,
it had like some sound dampening on the blades, or you were just so
making
engrossed?
No noise. It was making no noise, and all of a sudden, the only thing we know is it goes like this, like that. So from high to low, not like that, high to low, like and just comes up beside us, and we're all like, where the fuck did he come from?
Yeah.
Who's he? Who's he? Why is he here? Why is he here? And then he just goes around the hill and off.
Wow.
Why was he there? And what was the connection between him and shining a laser beam randomly at some clouds? Because we met this CSETI guy and suddenly, poof, balls of light everywhere.
Well, I don't know. I don't know about you, Reeves, but I can't beat that story.
No, I can't top that. Sorry.
I can't.
I've seen strange lights in the sky, but I can't top that.
I've seen things you people wouldn't believe.
Yeah.
But I think Matt has knocked it out of the park there. Let's see. Anyone else?
I can't beat that.
Steve Willis says.
Steve Wills. Yeah.
Steve Wills says, "What's the gang's go-to movies, TV shows for this lockdown period?" Well, I'll start with that. I'm currently watching Tales from the Loop on Amazon Prime. I would strongly recommend people check that out if you are sci-fi inclined. It's a relief because we finally have a genuine science fiction show, which is better than that steaming pile of garbage called Star Trek Picard and Doctor Who and all the other absolute crap that's currently being broadcast. Tales from the Loop on Amazon Prime. Check it out. I think you will be pleasantly surprised by that. I've only seen episode 1 and 2 so far, and I'm very impressed. I should warn you, though, that I don't know if you might feel the same way, but I found episode 2, while being amazing and a great episode, I did find it very disturbing on many levels. So you're nodding, Matt. Did you see episode 2 also?
No, you told me about this, and you did tell me you found it a bit screwed up. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was great.
But do you know what? I watched that Mandalorian.
Oh, yeah.
Right? But do you know what? I watched the first episode, and I was like, are you shitting me? This is I was offended. I was deeply offended because I was expecting that this Boba Fett character, that we're going to get his backstory now, that he would be some sort of like, there would be redeeming features. And I honestly was deeply offended that this series was like bigging up the most horrible gangster ever. Because the first 2 episodes, he had no redeeming features. He was horrible. Mm-hmm. You couldn't trust him. And it was like, this is how to be a Darth Vader on steroids. You know, it's like, this guy is a wanker.
Well, it took a few episodes for you to start to warm up to him, right?
But I didn't think there was going to be any hope for the series. I thought this is like their big. I thought this was a satanic plot to like make us like the most horrible person on the world. Mm-hmm. And I was actually so offended. I thought, I'm not watching 3. I just walked away from it. I was like, I'm not watching this shit. I can't do that.
But I'm not watching this shit. You went back to it though, right? I mean, I'm assuming
I had a cool down period. You've seen them all
now, right?
Yeah, I had a cool down period, and I just thought, I'm going to watch it for the hell of it. I'm going to force myself, like watching something you don't want to watch, like some nasty snuff movie, you know, or something like that. Yeah, and I'm gonna do it. And then he started to change, and then I ended up thinking, you clever bastards. By the end of it, I was like, you little bastards. You made me hate this guy properly, and I was feeling like I hate this guy. Mm-hmm. Now I'm going through the change now. Like he went through the change. You're making me like him. Yeah. So I'm not going to spoil it, but it got me because I thought I would have seen that plot line come in a mile away. And they got it under my radar.
You should have finished that speech you just made, Matt. You should have finished it, and then you should have said, "I have spoken."
I have spoken. Have you noticed in my how it's affected me? Because I say that in most of my
I have spoken.
No, it's not my I have spoken. It's that is the way. That's what I say. I say it a lot in my videos now since I watched The Mandalorian. But I say it because I think people who understand and watch the series, I have spoken, and it killed. Oh, They kill off some great characters. They kill off some great characters.
Did you know though?
But that's why it's so good, because
did you know that the character,
the
guy that I have spoken, the guy? Do you know that was Nick Nolte?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, all right.
I didn't know that.
Well, you knew. I
didn't know that.
I thought I was going to shock you. I thought you were like, no way, that was Nick Nolte. Yeah, that was Nick Nolte.
When you realize that, and you look at
Reeves,
it's not him. It's not him in the
no,
costume.
I didn't. No,
Reeves
I didn't know.
No, yeah, it's not him in the costume.
It's his voice, but they made the character based on his looks as well. Yeah. They kind of caricatured Nick Nolte into this. Yeah. I think towards the last episodes, it's like there's some elements where I thought you're dragging it out here, but it was brilliant payoff in the end. I thought it was good.
The best episode, one of the best episodes was when they were on the prison ship.
Mm. Oh, they have to go to the prison ship. That was a good one. With Clancy Brown. He was the big guy from. He was the Kurgan from Highlander. Remember that? Clancy Brown. I will kill him.
Yeah, and even better than that, he was in Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai across the eighth
dimension. Yeah, the Banzai Institute.
Dimension,
yeah,
absolutely. All right,
that's actually on my Netflix playlist to watch, and I still haven't watched it.
Netflix.
God, all those great films.
Yeah,
all those great films. All those great films from the 80s that we took. I was for granted.
Quoting that in my kitchen earlier on, cooking food. I was trying to remember the line. We will. What was it? It's got to be said in a stern Jamaican kind of American accent, but with a Russian overtones. It's like, we will fire a particle beamed weapon from Slovensk in Russia to Slovensk in Russia, which will make your American military think it is a first strike to which they will launch all their weapons. Or something like that. I can't remember the quote, but it's something like that.
All weapons. Dispatch War Rocket Ajax to bring back his body.
Your missile base in Smolensk in Russia.
Film as well.
Yeah.
Dispatch War Rocket Ajax to bring back his body.
All your bases are ours.
All your bases belong to us.
Belong to us. That's right.
Any other final questions before we call bullshit on this and get the F out of here? Anybody? Bueller?
Bueller.
Yeah. No? Come on.
Nightlife is here has got a question.
What's Nightlife is here? What's he saying?
I believe that I was born as an artist. So do you think that in our DNA is to be more susceptible to phenomenon to speak of? Were you willing to think out of the box? I think that DNA. Really, if you've got a artistic flair or a musical flair, and you pick it up easily, I think that in some way, if you look back in your family's history, I think that interest may well have always been there. I have, be honest with you, I'm a little bit of a collector of wristwatches. I collect vintage Seiko digital watches, just a thing I like to do. And my grandfather was someone who always repair and collect watches. It's a kind of a thing that carries on in the family, and you don't kind of think about it subjectivtly. It's something you do. And I think that with art,
you don't have to justify yourself.
Digital watch? What on earth is a digital watch?
We can talk about these things these days.
Accept this. Yeah. With art, with music, with all those kind of things, I think you can learn it, but you can also be part of. It can be passed down. And it's something you
there is
naturally
there's a genetic component that it's like, if you're a particularly good artist, there's a good chance that if you have kids, they could be also, or maybe it'll skip a generation.
Have an interest to it.
It'll be somewhere in the line that they'll be drawing and doodling and so on.
Is there a new kind of form of research they call epigenetics? It's like beyond genetics. It's beyond genetics because they thought they would find the answers to the universe in the genetics. So if you change genetic code, you can make a different human. Now they realize that genetics is like a Pandora's box. There is nuances to genetics, which mean there's more in genetics than they ever thought possible.
Right.
Yeah, so now they do believe that it's possible you can store memories and archetypal information inside genetics, so the parents can pass on stuff to
there
their
was
to
there
their
was
children?
a study. There was a study that was done with chickens. I think it was chickens, where they had chickens raised that have never been wild or anything, and then they put them in like a shed or something, and they flew a fake hawk over them, and they acted as if they flew like a triangle, nothing, a square, nothing, all these different shapes, no reaction from the chickens. But then they had the shape of a hawk, and they flew that over it, and all the chickens freaked out and started running away. But they've been in captivity. They've had no experience of being hunted or anything. But it's as if this shape, this image is built in to react. When you see that shape, run.
That's quite interesting. That's to be understood, because I mean, like, the reason you breathe, it's subconscious. It's the reason the chicken understands a hawk is dangerous, because it's unconsciously stored and programmed into us.
Right.
This is how you breathe. This is how you process chemicals. Your brain is doing things that we just got no idea is going on. Like all these processes going on in your body, and the last process is kind of like, and get up and go and get some food. That's nothing compared to the multi-layer. Right. That's just the last bit, is like get up and walk around. That's like the little bit at the end. But all those things are kind of hidden away. But what would be interesting as an experiment is to maybe imply, through showing a mother chicken, that the color red equals more food. You get more food if you peck red, peck red. Then have some offspring, and then they get it in the offspring, that they go for the red, right? But they're never exposed to red, But then see if it happens, and see if it goes down the offspring again. That would be an interesting experiment. And it's kind of like the water stuff, where you can imprint into water emotions and ideas and these sorts of things. So I'm a big believer in quantum universe, quantum reality, that we all interact with each other. And maybe this is where the telepathy thing and the 100th monkey and the morphogenic fields from Rupert Sheldrake. All these things. So I can think something, because everyone's thinking it, and if we all think it, maybe we influence reality, and this is where prayers come from.
Yeah, another thing that Sheldrake was the sense of being stared at, and I've used this for years to prove to people that psychic phenomena is real. They're like, it's bullshit, psychics, you're out of your mind, get out of here, you're mental. But and we've all experienced this, where if you go to a party or a room where there's like dozens of people, just randomly pick someone in the room and stare at the back of their head. And sooner or later, they're going to turn around, and they're not going to look in your direction. They're going to look exactly at you, right? Because they know that someone is watching them. And what's the mechanism? How does that work? How do they know that someone's staring at them? It makes no sense. It makes no rational and logical sense that happens, but it does.
Yeah, we go to we get into the realms now of the mind being external from the consciousness. Our mind, our consciousness is something that's we're like connected via an invisible tether to a kind of an invisible universal consciousness.
Yeah, it exists
and that
outside of ourselves.
And that when we look at someone, we invoke a connection to them, and it's like as if you're pinging a server, and then that forces them to turn around. I've done it in supermarkets. I've stared at the back of someone's head that's literally 20 foot away. It doesn't always work, but 9 times out of 10 they'll.
You sure that was the bird's head, Reeves? Are you sure that's what you're saying?
Yeah, I was looking at her head, honestly, officer. It don't do nothing. I didn't touch her. I was 20 foot away.
That's right. Oh, shit. I'll tell you what. She had a lovely head. We got a message here from Aaron. Aaron Stainer says, "I got one for you guys. What do you think about Bigfoot?" I could take this, but I'll open it up to you guys. Who wants to take this one before we wrap it up?
It's definitely your girth is definitely connected to the size of your feet, and I am a size 11 and a half.
Bigfoot.
Okay, there you go. Bigfoot. What do you think, Reeves? Oh, Sasquatch.
Sasquatch. Ogopogo, is it? Ogopogo?
No, that's the lake monster.
Is it the lake monster?
I think
Who was
so.
the other one? Sasquatch. Big. Anyway, the one with the
Yeti.
snowman.
The Yeti.
The Yeti.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I think the Sasquatch there is video footage out there of large creatures moving around. Whether they are completely material. They're like flesh and blood, or they are on the cusp of something that is paranormal in the more into a phenomenon of apparition. So therefore, when you look at Skinwalker Ranch, you have witnesses saying that they saw what seemed to be a portal open up in a field, and this large animal
walks out
type creature walks out and walks across the field. Other people have been in the forest as well and seen creatures and had experiences with seeing these large, Bigfoots. But they also say that they seem to appear and disappear without really leaving any trace that they were there in the first place.
Right.
So, it's a fascinating subject, but I think that there is more to it than just a big hairy man or a big hairy mammal that's walking around the woods. I think there's a lot more to it.
No, I would totally agree. I mean, I don't pretend to have the answers, but there's too many witnesses, too many honest people have seen these things. They can't all be lying. They can't all be making it up. There's got to be something to it. Now, as to what that something is, your guess is as good as mine. But there's something going on there. There's no smoke without fire. There's something going on.
People often see big cats as well. They talk about these big cats, and they're way too big to be a pussy cat, and they're taking photos of them, and they say, oh, it appears it's a big cat. And they say, oh, well, loads of cats have been released by people that illegally kept animals, like cats and things. They get released into, maybe they survive, maybe there are some out there. But I like the stories, kind of interestingly, of creatures that start as one thing, but when you observe them, they turn into something else.
That's a bit like the black dog phenomenon, where people have witnessed large black dogs. There was a case hundreds of years ago of a large, what they called it, I think a demon dog that attacked. A devil dog that attacked a church and scratched the door, and the scratch marks are still in the door today. You can go to the church and see the original door that's hundreds of years old, and you can see the scratch marks in the door. But there's a phenomenon where I think it was at Borley, they were doing an investigation. They witnessed three or four investigators were doing a night vigil in the churchyard, and they witnessed a large black animal, which they likened to larger than a house dog, run up towards the wall, and as it came to the wall, it was as if it was going to jump the wall at them, and it vanished. So what's that?
What's interesting with the black dog stories, though, they seem to be restricted to the United Kingdom and or Northern Europe. They don't really spread any further than that. You don't get any black dog stories in the United States or other parts of the world. Yeah. It's usually in the UK or Northern Europe you get this thing. Well, we're rapidly running out of time here, guys. I want to thank everyone for coming on. I do want to say, please subscribe. Look how big that subscribe is. I should make that a little smaller.
We got loads of black dog pubs. There's one down the road, and it's because of the black dog phenomenon.
Yeah, no,
for
sure.
Got one down the road.
Yeah, the black dog is but it's a UK
thing.
It's a UK thing. In Northern Europe, United Kingdom is the black dog. For everyone listening, watching, whatever, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. We'd really, really appreciate it. And we've had a great time, and we'll come back and do it again. We're going to do some more live streams. We'll advertise them, of course, and let you guys know when we're going to do more. And we'll try and maybe mix up the times a little bit, so some of you that have got to get up early or stay up late might be able to make it at a better time. If you want to know more about Mindset, go to mindsetcentral.com. That's mindsetcentral.com. There you'll find all the podcasts we do and so on. But please subscribe to the Mindset Central YouTube channel. And we will be back very soon with some more great content where we talk about all manner of the weird, the strange, and the unknown, and so on. So let me go through everyone so we could say goodbye and so on. Let's go to Matt first.
We've got websites too. I
know, but you can't. I'm getting there. Calm down.
Oh, of course. I thought you were going to go to music then. I was like, he's going to put it on. He's going to put music on.
I would never do that. I'm going to spread the wealth. You take it easy. All right, let's go straight over to Matt, who does the secret vault, and let's get him.
I want to talk about something else
to tell you to tell you all about his website and his explorers. Over to Matt.
Well, just go ahead over to the Secret Vault, one word, the Secret Vault, on YouTube, and you can have a look at the explores we do. There's UFO stuff on there. There's probably some ghost stuff in there. There's all sorts of weird and wonderful stuff. Just stuff that that I find interesting. So, yeah, see you over there. Excellent.
And I would absolutely say, yeah, go to the Secret Vault. Some great stuff. Matt gets up some incredible explores. Some of the things I was talking to him the other day, saying they were watching his videos, and you're on the edge of your seat because you don't know what's going to happen next. So yeah, absolutely check him out over at the Secret Vault. And Reeves, the one and only, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Reeves Cooke. Paratalk. Yes. We do Paratalk together. We got some new shows in the can. This will be out very soon. Anything you want to lay on the viewers before we call it a day?
Just very grateful for everyone to turn up and supporting us. And give us a follow. If you want to follow me, I have a Twitter. It's for all the Paratalk stuff. I've just launched it. So that's twitter.com/Paratalk1, number 1. And you can follow me there. And I'll be posting any of the Paratalks we do from now on and any other interesting news and nitpicks and things. So, yeah, give us a follow.
Absolutely. So all I can say is thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for listening and watching. We've had a blast from myself, Reeves, and Matt. There's Matt. There he is right there. We're going to say farewell for now, and we'll be back very soon with some more Mindset Podcast live streams. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel and share and like and all that nonsense they tell you on these channels. But we'll see you all very soon. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.